What is going on, fellow spam enthusiasts, and welcome on in to day 3 of the draft cave. We are getting ready for rounds 4 through 7 of the NFL draft. The Cleveland Browns have made now 5 picks in this draft. We've all had a chance to sleep on things. We'll get you some analysis as we barrel towards round 4 of the NFL draft, which kicks off in just about 10 minutes. And again, if you're joining us in the draft cave here, we appreciate you. We love you. We do want to remind you that this is our own coverage of the draft. So we always have been talking about picks as we get them. So if you're watching on TV as well, the picks are going to come across here before they come across there. So make sure you know that. We do want to give a special shout out as we get started here to our friends at Core Home Fitness for sponsoring the draft cave this year. Core Home Fitness is the best way to get buff and not even have to leave your house. The best in-home fitness gear out there, corehomefitness.com. Give them a look. We appreciate them. With you here, I'm your host, Michael Keefe, and I'm joined by several of my OBR cohorts, Brad Ward, Jacob Roach, Barry McBride, and Jack Duffin. Fellas, we've seen the Browns make 5 picks. And we've seen the Browns give us a lot to talk about. So just throw it around the horn. Just real quick thoughts. I've got a couple topics I want to bring up before the draft really gets going. But just throw it around the horn, guys. Brad, go ahead and start. And now that we're into day 3, just kind of as things have marinated in your brain, where are we feeling about the Cleveland Browns draft?
Listen, a lot of these picks aren't the way I would have wished they would have gone. I still feel that way, but I'm not, once again, like I said, in a positive light, I feel like you're coming away with 3 starters, 2 offensive weapons. If you're looking at the first 3 picks in this draft, and then as far as the pick with Dylan Gabriel, I'm not going to really get real deep into it. It still doesn't make a whole ton of sense to me. As much as you like him or not at this, you know what I mean? It's not really about the guy as much as it is the wasted, what feels like a wasted asset. But I'm going to move on from that and hope that all works out, because I do trust Kevin Stefanski, and it feels like a Kevin Stefanski move, right? That feels like his handpicked guy. So if that's his handpicked guy, and I love Kevin, and I trust Kevin, that I'm going to trust that he knows what he's doing with him. So that's where I'm at with things, Mike.
Jack, you came in hot this morning with some Dylan Gabriel takes, so I'll let you go next.
Yeah, so I don't talk about round 2. Just forgotten from my mind, but with the other 2 picks, I'm excited. I'm really now keen to see, do they go full-blown 2 tight end offense? Are we looking at potentially trading a Greg Newsom for a Dallas Goedert? And we go, look, there's 3 of them here, and that's where we go. Because it's always tough to try and have these takes on the draft when we only have part of the picture at this point. We haven't got to the end of the season, the sort of off-season, and we're like, all right, I can see what they're trying to achieve here. And we will get there. But if we find out that suddenly the reason why they haven't invested in these tight ends is because they're going to make a big splash at tight end, and we're going to have 2 tight ends on the field, they're 1.1 tight ends on the field per snap last year. If that's going to become 1.7, well, you're not going to invest a load in a third wide receiver if you're not going to have a third wide receiver out there. So that's something I'm keen to see. Does that develop more? And then in terms of Dylan Gabriel, it is just peak Kevin Stefanski. If we look at adjusted completion percentage, number 1 in the whole of college last year. That's out of like 300 and something quarterbacks. 6th in terms of how low his turnover-worthy plays are. It's one that he should be able to go in there and do a job. People say, hey, he's really small. He's an inch shorter than Brock Purdy. And I don't think anyone's saying Brock Purdy doesn't belong in the league. So it's one that if you go in and you've got an elite offensive mind, and everything we hear about Dylan Gabriel is when he's told the ball needs to go there and it needs to go there at this point, the ball is there. And Kevin Stefanski, all the metrics, people like PFF look at that, schemed open players, the Browns are always right at the top of that, top 3. So this might be that perfect mesh of The issues we had with Watson was they needed to see it before they threw it. You can't run that in Kevin Stefanski's system. So I'm keen to see what works, but I'm not pegging this as he is the guy. I'm looking at him going, hey, if we go into next season and we draft a guy in the first round, Dylan Gabriel is the backup. Deshaun Watson is expected to be on the 53-man roster next year. He is then the third choice, and he is a game day inactive. That is the position I want it to be. I don't want them needing to spend $6 to $8 million on a backup quarterback just for the sake of making Deshaun Watson game day inactive. So it's one that I think this is part of a bigger picture, and there's a chance he works out. Dylan Gabriel is not going to be an elite quarterback, but Dylan Gabriel has a chance to be 16th best quarterback in the league. And if you get that, you can compete for the playoffs.
All right, some positives out of Jack this morning. Well, it's afternoon for you, so you've had more time, obviously, to marinate on it. That's how time works.
The
right?
first two picks still suck, though.
We can argue about that. Barry McBride's here. Barry, come on in. Tell us how you're feeling today.
Well, last night you asked me to play word association with the NFL draft, our draft, and my word was meh. I'm warmed up a little bit since then as I'm learning more about Dylan Gabriel and the process that the Browns went through to get him. Apparently, according to Dane Brugler, Dylan was by far and away one of the best interviewers during that portion of the process. Really impressed people, not just the Browns, but around the league. Impressed people with his maturity, his dedication, all these intangibles. He's still 5'11.5". We're not going to change that. But if you believe in, certain intangibles of a quarterback making him worth an investment, then Dylan Gabriel is a guy you would want to look into. I think that there were some good posts in the water cooler. There was one particular by Mark Troy that I really enjoyed, just sort of talking about the perspective on this front office. I personally think that we, or myself as a fan, I rely on mock drafts and the draftniks to tell me what the good picks are. And when the picks differ from that, I get upset and I assume that they're wrong. But I think that you see that the behavior of this Browns front office is not as robotic as we have made them out to be. Stuck to these particular rules and simply following the rules. They did some John Dorsey-esque things in terms of picking a linebacker and a running back, in the second round. You may agree, you may disagree, but it seemed to me that they sort of came off, the guardrails a little bit and essentially said, we like these guys as players, we like them as people. They're the type of people we want in our locker room, and attacked it that way. So I'm reevaluating this front office a little bit and reevaluating my immediate reaction to the picks.
I'll get to you in a second, Jacob, Jeff, but just to make sure people are staying tuned here. Again, draft getting ready to start in just about a minute. They'll get things kicked off for day 3 over there in Green Bay. Just to remind everybody, for Browns picks today, they have one here in the 4th round, 126, which is the 24th pick of the 4th round. Then you go all the way down into the 5th round, and their next pick after that is 166. That's the 30th pick of the 5th round. And then the final pick after they made that deal before the draft even started, the final pick is pick 192. So 126, 166, 192 are the picks remaining for the Cleveland Browns as we get ready to get things kicked off. As the day starts, it'll be the Tennessee Titans on the clock, followed by Jacksonville and the New York Giants. Jacob, just same thing. It's that 60-second vent session on how you're feeling this morning.
I think something that Barry touched on was really important. We touched on it on this stream. I saw you guys touch on the stream yesterday when I wasn't on, but talking about those high character guys. That is all they've targeted. That is literally these are guys that teammates and coaches raved about. And my goodness, is that a nice breath of fresh air right there, just from kind of the situations. I know Casey and I had some conversations on shows about, like, I'm tired of taking chances on guys that have character issues and injury histories. And then they actually went in the draft and so far haven't taken any of those guys. And I'm with you, Brad, and Jack a little bit in the sense that, like, it's the positions that they took, not the players that they took, that kind of upset me a little bit. I had this I said I was mad at the Browns because they made me mad about Carson Schlesinger, because I think Carson Schlesinger is a phenomenal pick. I just wouldn't have gone linebacker at 33 because I think he's a phenomenal player. And I was kind of mad about the pick. And then I was like, screw you, Browns, for making me upset that a really good football player is coming to town because you just took him in a spot that's not a premium spot. But I also saw Pete point out on Twitter, he was talking about what the Lions did with Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell, going running back, linebacker, really high ranked. Both of those took them early. And he was like, I disagree with the process, but it worked out because they got 4 really good football players. I think they got 4 really good football players and a good football. I don't want to call him. I like Dylan Gabriel a lot. Okay. But I'm not going to go on that rant. I did it last night. But overall, man, I just think they took really talented players. They didn't really care about the spot. They took high character guys. And at the end of the day, I think they're a better football team.
All right, Jeff, you just jumped in. Jeff Lloyd also jumping in with us for day 3. Jeff, you woke up this morning. Anything changed from how you were feeling from last night?
I mean, I left here and kind of just, you go looking for, positives, right? That's what you do. There is a Dylan Gabriel fan club. There is a little bit of a cult following for Dylan Gabriel. Mike Renner, who I absolutely have nothing but the utmost respect for, I think he was 59th on his overall board. I'm not saying, I'm ready to admit to that, honestly. But you look at Dylan Gabriel, do I ever think he's going to be entrenched as the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback? I don't. No. And, is 94 probably high for a good backup quarterback that you hope never plays? That's probably a little too rich for my blood, no doubt about it. I think it was more that, they kind of liked the guy. I think, and I'm sure there was conversations with a guy like Dylan Gabriel who, 24 years old. When you sit down with him, I don't think anybody's blowing smoke up his can, oh, you're going to come in, you're going to be the guy. You understand what your path in the NFL is, right? You understand where, your longevity in the NFL would be, right? And, taking them from 3 different, systems in college, certainly 3 different programs. Everywhere he went, he was appreciated. Again, like when I closed last night, I don't think they've really landed the plane here. But I mean, Mason Graham's going to play. Carson Schlesinger is going to play. Quinshon Judkins is going to play. There is certainly going to be a role for Harold Fannin. And I think, and the other thing I'm trying to just talk myself into is I think we're looking at this draft solely. I think this is a 2-year approach. Pete and I were talking last night. It didn't feel like it was a rebuild. It felt like it was maybe a refurbish, but maybe we tore some drywall up and then found some mold, tore up the carpet and realized maybe that the floor, the underneath the flooring is a little bit more of an issue than maybe we thought. There's some really good players on this team, and this team could conceivably contend this year. But, I think there's still just a lot of work to be done, and, really anything that's being done right now. And after that move Thursday night, I think all eyes are just, where are we going to be a year from now as far as, what becomes of those 2 first-round picks and, who inevitably, hopefully, finally becomes the guy to, take that list of quarterbacks and hopefully have it just incinerated.
So, guys, I had a bit of an epiphany, and the Titans on the clock. We'll get to picks kind of in groups today because they'll come in pretty fast, and we want to make sure we're giving our good analysis. And we're going to get to best players available in just a second. But I had this little epiphany today as I'm out doing a little yard work on this crisp, cool day in Cleveland, and I've realized that I think what we saw with the Cleveland Browns and Dylan Gabriel is something that, and especially when you factor in the Shedeur Sanders factor of him still being on the board. And we can get into a conversation of whether or not they think he's good or whether they don't think he's good or why he's still falling. Or it's not really about that for me. I think from a consensus perspective, pretty much everybody has Shedeur Sanders rated higher than Dylan Gabriel coming into the process at least. But I think what we saw out of the Cleveland Browns last night is something that we have very recently seen from the Cleveland Browns when it comes to the quarterback position. And that is, I think the Cleveland Browns took a player in the draft that is going to save them a headache.
Yeah.
Because I think if they would have taken Shedeur Sanders, they are setting themselves up for a headache. Boys, we had this conversation after, not last season, but the season before, when Joe Flacco came and went on the miracle run and made the playoffs and won comeback player of the year. And guess what the Browns didn't do? They didn't offer him a contract. And we talked extensively about it because maybe they didn't think there's other factors. I'm not saying this is a sole factor, but certainly one of the factors was, yeah, but we're going to start Deshaun Watson next year when he's healthy. And the minute he starts to falter, the fans are going to go ballistic for Joe Flacco if we bring him back. And it's going to create an absolute circus. And you might not agree with the process there, but that definitely played a part in this. If they bring in Shedeur Sanders in the 3rd round this year, and then they use those two, let's say they use both those 1st-round picks next year to trade up and get a quarterback, it's a circus. It's a headache. And it's going to be that same situation. So to me, I felt like I just had a little deja vu of, you may not love it, but I think the Browns maybe did a little work to save themselves a headache down the road.
I think that's a fair assessment.
It still doesn't explain why they had to take quarterback there, though.
No, but it's not about that really for me. Like, that's a different conversation. I just think why Dillon Gabriel over somebody like Shedeur Sanders, I feel like a lot of it is to avoid some of the things that would happen if they took a quarterback high next year.
I guess my biggest issue is the 20 players in front and behind I could have all justified as good players to add to the team that would have helped immediately, whereas I don't think Gabriel provides you that at all. Feels like a wasted pick a little bit, especially if they're going to go back next year and get their guy. I guess that's my issue. I would have been fine waiting until day 3 to take a swing on Will Howard or Kyle McCord, certainly. Then feels like a wild reach for Gabriel at 94. I think you could have got him at 126 if you really wanted him.
Yeah, and again, that I don't think anybody disagrees. They're going to sell you hard on Dillon Gabriel and all that. Again, my point was just less about when they took him and more about why they didn't take maybe a guy that a lot of people had ranked much higher.
Well, if you took Sanders, yeah, because if you took him, and the theory was, and this is apparently the belief is that most people believe Shedeur is a backup quarterback. How does that work? Because he is obviously, as we've seen, he is probably the biggest name in this entire draft is Shedeur Sanders. There's no question around it. An absolute lightning rod name. So you bring him in, and it's, again, you have that conversation with him that you have with Dillon Gabriel. Dion's not listening. Shedeur's not listening to it. And apparently there was one meeting he went to where they tried to correct him on something, and apparently actually came back with, that maybe we're just not compatible, which is, that's a job interview cancer, obviously. But once you get him there, and then it's good. Yeah. I'm with you, Mike. It's the same thing. Well, when's Sanders going to get a shot? When's Shedeur going to get a shot?
Yeah.
Hey, or we already went through a meddlesome father here in Cleveland a few years ago. But that was a wide receiver position. But you're telling me, if the Browns lost a game and whoever the starting quarterback was that day went 18-28, threw 2 picks, got sacked 5 times, you're telling me we wouldn't get from at Deion Sanders X account capital LOL? Certainly could happen. Probably would.
That face was not for anything you said, Jeff. Just I was making a face at the Titans pick.
Oh, off and running?
Yeah. They just
hit it.
I can do it. Or Jack, you want it, Jack? Okay. With the 103rd pick, the Titans select Kamir Dyke, the wide receiver from Florida that I had ranked at 225.
Really?
Yeah, dude. Like he had 10 touchdowns over his first 3 years. And before he goes to Florida, he's fine. You're like, oh yeah, that's fine. But again, at 103, I'm gonna say some Brad stuff here because Brad's right. I feel like you could have got this guy later.
Yeah.
Like,
I think he's got a 6th round grade in Jack's spreadsheet of doom, the live draft spreadsheet. If you're not on that spreadsheet, you're missing out because tons of good information just in one view. But I want to talk a little bit about the Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel thing, because I think it once again points to the importance of the post-combine, post-season process. I mean, because you're coming out of here with two guys who, share some characteristics, at least and when you look at their statistics, low turnover rates, high accuracy, very, effective in the short passing game. One of them fell precipitously and one of them rose. And that is all the feedback that we're getting on these interviews. So, we can sit here and analyze based on the tape as much as we want, but we weren't in those interviews, right? And those interviews weren't filmed for us to take a look at. And clearly something happened and it separated Dylan Gabriel from Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Something happened.
It was just for me.
With Sanders. This Sanders fall. I don't know if you guys
I
have
can't
seen
believe
some. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen some of the interviews. And a lot of people in positions of African Americans in positions of power, on broadcast last night, really going in on the NFL and the whole process here. They feel like he's being wronged in some way, that he has been dissected more. I saw this from several people, that he has been dissected more than any other prospect, and he's being picked on because of who his family is. Listen, I feel bad for the kid because he's a better player than this.
Yes.
He should have gone earlier, but it's not. It's he probably. It sounds like he interviewed poorly and rubbed people the wrong way, and B, the people around him have not helped him as much. They've done him a disservice. So I think personally, it's interesting. Do I think there's like an agenda to screw him over like a lot of people are laying out? No, I don't think that's the case.
I have this. This was Peter Schrager, and this was or very, very early on in the process. And basically, quote, it was Dion has a lot of people that he has done work with and works with in the media. So I think there's been a little bit of like the sensitivity of being negative on Shedeur. And I don't know if it's helped Shedeur in the long run. Because now if Shedeur doesn't go in the first 20 picks, it's the great slide. But Dion worked for CBS, he worked for the NFL Network. Dion has obviously had great relationships with Fox, and he's got a show on Tubi. He's got a documentary on Amazon. So like everybody likes Dion who worked with him and appreciated him. So it's this is basically what I said. It was hard for anybody to voice whatever negatives they maybe thought were with Shedeur. And then they started to creep out a little bit. Once somebody kind of took the cork out of the bottle, so to speak, then some other people did. So the thing is, basically what it sounds like is there was never truly a fair evaluation on Shedeur, or basically a public known opinion on Shedeur. And, I equated this kind of Bronny James, and it'll probably somewhat what Arch Manning is going to go through in a couple of years. So it certainly makes for a difficult time, but you just don't know, really truly how he was viewed. But now after 3 rounds, 32 teams passing multiple times, and well, he's a backup. Well, you can't have your backup be the biggest name in your quarterback room.
Yeah,
that within itself creates an issue, because the only time your backup is the biggest name in the quarterback room is he's the first round pick who's just waiting to basically be said, hey, now's your chance. That's it. You're ready. Let's go.
and it's
The comments are waiting for me to pronounce it, and I'm not going to give them the satisfaction of trying the first name. But Virginia Tech, Tootin,
Bayshaw.
fastest guy at the combine, 40 career rushing touchdowns. Imagine waiting till day 3 for a running back. Not me.
pick.
You glanced over the negatives though.
It's a lot of
But
fumbles. It's a
Dude
lot
can't
of
hang on to
fumbles.
the football.
yeah,
Yeah,
Michelle
he
Tootin
fumbles
is-
a lot, but
Yes.
can't. I think he can fix that. I mean, dude. I love
Kiki
this
Barber.
guy's film.
Kiki Barber
I
was
mean,
a prime example.
I like this guy's film. He's a slasher, dude. He puts his foot in the ground and just fires through the line of scrimmage. He's a lot of fun to watch. It's a good pick, I think.
He's like the definition of one cut and go.
Yes.
Like he gets up in there and he's like, bye.
Explosive too,
Yeah.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah. He is a little small. Like he's a little small. I think he's like 5'9.5" or something like that. So he's a little bit small, but like me and Casey have talked about him being a candidate for the Browns for a while, and me and Sam had that conversation too, just if they had waited until day 3. And I got it. You're muted, Jack.
The tape people go wild. How was he not taken in the second round? But the Giants select running back Cam Scatterboo out of Arizona.
Arizona State.
Seems like a good spot for Cam. Man, he's a fun kid to watch play college football, and I think he could. I think he could make a little bit of noise in the NFL, but I don't. I think he was a better college running back than he's going to be an NFL running back.
He, to me, like was always like a complimentary piece. Like it was like you take him because you like, in this situation, you like Tyrone Tracy. Like you like your guy that is number 1, and then right behind Tyrone, it's like, oh, we're in the red zone. We need someone to just like battering ram it in. Oh, there's Cam Scatterboo. It's like, with him going there to be the number 2, I think that's one of the more ideal landing spots for him.
I mean, listen, he did well to make a name for himself, especially in that game against Texas in the playoff, in college football playoff. Man, Cam Scatterboo was a beast in that game and really kind of dragged Arizona State along to almost win that game against Texas. So he's a good football player. But we'll see how he comes through. Listen, anyways, I thought it was a good conversation. We're not going to sit here and harp on Shedeur Sanders again. The only reason I brought it up is it just very much reminded me of the Joe Flacco situation from a couple years ago, and maybe not wanting to deal with everything that would go with making that pick. But we've seen some guys come off the board, a couple running backs and a wide receiver off the board just to kick things off and get started in this 4th round. I know we've got a graphic in the background here, just some best players available. Brad, you said we had that, so why don't we pop that up and see what it looks like on the best players available list? And you see it here. Obviously, Cam Scatterboo is off the board now, so that's gone. But as you look at this list, what kind of guys jump out at you as a target for the Browns if they're still there at 126?
It's interesting because I don't see him on there unless he just went. But Jalen Royals, Torrey Horton, Elikai Manor, the 3 wide receivers. I have Elikai Manor as my 6th graded wide receiver at like 35 overall or something like that. Like size speed guy from Stanford. Have absolutely no idea how he's just hanging out there on day 3. Jalen Royals, he's got that explosive speed. He's got that 4.4, can run it down there. And then Torrey Horton just catches everything, man. I mean, we've complained about them not taking a wide receiver, but barring something crazy happening, there's still some meat on the wide receiver bone.
There is
2 guys.
Go ahead.
There's 2 guys I really like, so I'll let Jacob Roach pronounce it, but the wide receiver out of Stanford,
Elikai Manor.
That I've had all sorts of issues with during this whole draft process. And then Cameron Williams, I can do that one. The tackle is those 2 guys I could certainly see being the pick for the Browns if either of them there make it to where the Browns pick at 126.
I do like both. I would be very happy with either one of those picks.
I was going to say from this list, Billy Bowman Jr., it may be a little early for him. I don't know how teams feel, but he's not really like your true center fielder, free safety, but he's more of like a nickel hybrid guy, but a hell of a football player that you could get at this point. I'm a big fan of his. And then, of course, if they were to go offensive line, I would have no issue with that here either. So if you're looking at Bo and some other guys that are still on the board there at tackle and guard, would be kind of where I'm looking at. Of course, wide receiver, I've been banging the table on for a couple days now because I feel that room is completely incomplete. That's weird to say, but it does feel completely incomplete with no Ao. Yeah, I mean, Ao Maynor still out there is really hard to explain. To your point, Jacob,
Yeah.
He was a guy I thought was early day 2 selection, big physical AFC North type wide receiver. But we've talked about the Browns needing a ton of speed. You've got Royals out there who can provide some speed for you there as well. And there's some guys that late day 3 you would love to take a flyer on that are like just athletic freaks that don't have the same production, but guys that would be worth a swing at that position as well.
Barry McBride, I know there's got to be a face on this page that we know your affinities, Barry. We know your affinities and the things that you love. There's got to be a name on this list that's just jumping off the page at you, isn't there?
Not really. I mean, I'm assuming you were referring to Will Howard. But
no.
there's also Jack Sawyer.
That's what I was
agree with. Okay, Jack Sawyer, obviously fantastic moments during the national championship game, but Pete has put together some analysis on this in our Ask the Insiders forum. He answered a question about why not Jack Sawyer. Made sense to me from that perspective. So as much as I love Jack Sawyer for all he did, I'm not sitting here at the edge of my chair waiting for his name to be called.
They're announcing the next pick, and we have 2 of them.
Air them up.
All right. So our first one, with the 106th pick, the Patriots take Craig Woodson, the safety out of Cal, and with the 107th pick, the Jaguars take Jack Kaiser, the linebacker out of Notre Dame.
These are both guys that I had slated when the Browns originally were going to have that run of, 179, when they had that 4 6s and about 25 to 30 picks. I thought those were names that would kind of fit there. These guys are obviously going early. Can the Browns certainly take advantage of that? I actually kind of like Jack Sawyer. I'm not going to lie. The thing where I think if I'm bringing him in, and obviously he's probably not a starting edge for Cleveland, but you like the DNA, you like the effort, Jack Sawyer is not going to give you a lazy rep, and especially if he's, here's this guy who's been, obviously a great player his entire time. If it's only 8 reps, you're going to get 1000% of Jack Sawyer on 8 reps, so that's something I would kind of be okay with. The Cam Scadaboo game where you brought up the tech, I always, every time I went back and watched that, it always reminded me of Bobby Boucher in the Bourbon Bowl. It's like whatever Arizona State needed that day, Cam Scadaboo was, man, we need a 40-yard completion. There was Scadaboo launch. Yep. I mean, it literally felt like Bobby Boucher in the Bourbon Bowl. I really like the pairing there, though, for him with the Giants. They have Tracy. So, because Scadaboo's guy, where you would probably have to just collar him because he'd want 47 carries. He would be taped, from his neck to his what's. He's got a sling on. I can still carry it. I have an arm. I'll be okay. So, getting him in a spot where it's going to be, smaller, lighter workload. And again, another guy where he's going to give max 1000% effort every snap. But that's what you're kind of getting here. You're going to get guys who are really athletic and have nothing to show for it. Or you're going to get guys who are limited athletes and have a really, really darling resume, but, maybe have reached their athletic peak.
I think if I was going to go edge here, I would lean towards Swinson, Kyle Kennard,
not a bad name,
and Ivy as better options than For at least for me, better options than
Maybe a little
Sawyer.
ceiling, sure. Probably guys who would have some ceiling to them. Yes.
Yeah, Swenson's the highest rated edge on my board that's left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think first of all, my opinion on Jack Sawyer went down just a little bit when I saw him make that first pitch on opening day at the Guardians game. That was tough. That was a tough look for Jack. But in all seriousness, if there's one thing that I like about Jack Sawyer, because again, we're going to talk about some local guys here, and Jack Sawyer, obviously an Ohio State guy. If there's one thing I like is where he lacks, and you were hinting at this too, Jeff, where he lacks in the crazy athleticism, crazy bend and ability to get around an edge and all that stuff, which he has some of that, but where he lacks a little bit in it, his hands are always in the place they need to be. And I really do like that about him. It's like a very poor man's, and I do not get me wrong, I'm not comparing him to TJ Watt, but you know how when TJ Watt doesn't get to the quarterback, his hand always seems to find the football?
Mm-hmm.
Or we've seen it forever with Calais Campbell when he was with the Baltimore Ravens. He may not get to the quarterback, but his hand finds the football.
Yep.
Jack Sawyer is very much like that. He may not get to the quarterback, but man, does his hand seem to find the football a lot. And does he seem to break up a play, even if he didn't get the sack or if it's not going to show up big on the stat sheet. So there is that element of him that I really do like, but I agree. I also have guys ranked higher, but as an Ohio State guy, I mean, the Browns could be going for more good favor. They could be going for more good favor.
Yeah, I got you. I'm with you.
Can we talk about this last pick real quick?
Because I want to really badly. Yeah.
Me too. Sorry, Mike. I couldn't wait on this one. The Raiders take was it Dante Thornton Jr. Wow, this is a guy. Once again, probably 100 picks.
Yeah.
Off of where most people had him. Athletics freak of nature. What are the downfalls here, Jacob? This is wild that they reached out. This is actually one of the guys I was talking about taking a flyer on in like the 6th round that you take a lottery ticket upside on somebody with this kind of athletic profile. But talk about him a little bit, Jacob.
Yeah, like my first reaction was to text Casey and say, "Hey, is Al Davis still alive?" Because
100%.
This is
the toast to Al Davis.
Legitimately runs a 4.3 flat. So dude can absolutely fly, but you're talking about a lot of the same criticisms that you have for every wide receiver that comes out of Tennessee. He knows how to run like 2 routes because he's in the most basic. He's not going to like, and somebody told me the other day, they argued with me on the forums that like teaching someone how to run a route is easy. You just tell them to run this far and turn around. And I'm like, oh boy, that's interesting. But anyway, and he had more production this year than the previous 2 combined. So he's got 1 year of production. He's just very raw. Like the route running's not there. Like the little nuances at the top of routes, like getting in and out of breaks. Like he's got insane speed, but he played like a little over 300 snaps this year. Like it's just, there's not a ton of production, not a ton of refinement. He's incredibly raw. He's the guy that you take because he can fly down the field. And then you just hope that you can teach him how to play wide receiver. Doesn't have the drop issues that like, Anthony Schwartz had, but he doesn't know that there's a lot of technical refinement that he needs. Yeah. And for that reason, I had him in like the 170s, 180s, or somewhere around that range.
Super intriguing pick. Yeah. Go ahead.
I had him on my list today, but I had him on my list for today as contention for the last pick.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you can grab a guy who's, got legit size and speed, and understand that, he's definitely a one-trick pony. That's not a terrible thing to get, in round 6. Again, certainly, it just goes to show you, how boards can certainly vary. That is for darn sure. And man, did Buffalo put some effort in bringing in some guys up front, man, on the defensive line.
They traded up for Siaki Ika.
Yeah. This is a massive human being, right?
Yeah, the Bills trade up to 109 for Kentucky defensive tackle Deion Walker.
Man, Deion Walker at times. There are times.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody ever said this about Siaki Ika, so I want to like backtrack on that one a little bit. But there are times where that dude is the most disruptive player defensively on the football field.
That's true.
He had some flashes. His tape will show you flashes of some incredible interior defensive line play. Unfortunately, the majority of his tape will show you a guy that is like disengaged from the game and like is kind of walking around and that is a little bit of an issue. It's a little bit of an issue. That's actually a great transition because I was just about to get to it, and then we can go back to Deion Walker. I was just about to get to this. So what a great comment that was about Core Home Fitness, a guy that looks like he could use a little Core Home Fitness, although I'm not in any place to talk there because, well, I could use a little Core Home Fitness, but we want to give a shout out again to our sponsor here, Core Home Fitness, as they have been a partner of ours for a while, and they are the best place to outfit your home with the best workout stuff. Look up our friends there at Core Home Fitness at corehomefitness.com. Check out the assortment of lifting equipment and especially their top-rated adjustable dumbbells. They're top-rated by the New York Times, Men's Health, and they're also a Best Buy by Consumer Reports. Check out their videos and other products like the Glute Drive Plus and the Flightmaster and crush your goals in 2024. They've got a U.S.-based support team, fast shipping, hassle-free returns, which you're not going to do. You're not going to want to return something from Core Home Fitness, but if you do for some reason, they're not going to give you a hassle. And you name it, they know what they are doing. Check out corehomefitness.com for the ultimate in-home fitness equipment and great videos on how to use their equipment and get in shape. They've stepped up to sponsor us here for the Draft Cave, so you step up for them and go visit Core Home Fitness for all your fitness needs. All right, yeah, Deion Walker, Core Home Fitness. Great transition. That was comment of the weekend.
Well done, Michael.
That was a beautiful transition there, Mike.
I do have a programming note, if we have a second here. We are having problems with our stream on X. That's not our problem. Yeah, it's an X problem. But if you are watching on X, the way to make sure you stay tuned to this stream is to jump over to YouTube or jump over to Twitch where the streams are rock solid. And plus, you get the bonus that you can interact in our chat room, which is just crazy right now and a lot of fun for us to watch and react to ourselves. So if you want to get more involved in the program, you can hop from X to YouTube or Twitch. And those links are available on the front page of the OBR. Okay, I'm done.
And I'd like to talk from experience that the comments are good. I know Mike Keeps caught me a few times where I just listen to people chatting and just start writing things in the comments because I want to chime in on what they're saying.
Okay, because I was watching the stream on one of my breaks, I think yesterday or something, and I was just checking to see what you guys were saying, and I saw Jack's name pop up, and he had just been talking. I'm like, did someone make a fake Jack Duffin profile, or is he having two conversations at the same time?
Well, in fairness, on Garage Beers, when Brad and Jeff were going at it, it was really Jack's way to get a word in, was to jump in the comments.
Facts.
That's how he had to do it.
Would have been tough.
All right, so we're sitting here again just to keep you up to date. The Cleveland Browns, we are approaching their 4th round pick. They are at 126, and that Buffalo pick was 109. So 16 more picks until the Cleveland Browns come back on. We've talked a lot about some players that are going to be available to them, but it all sounds like a consensus at this point. But go back to the strategy here for a minute, boys, because I think a lot of us thought the Browns were going to really heavily invest in the offense, and we talked about it a lot on day one, like maybe get a defensive player with that first pick that they have on day one, but then just attack the offense. And it doesn't feel like that's, I mean, they did take 3 offensive players yesterday, but it also doesn't strike me as like I feel like if they have a defensive player on the board that they like, they're going to take him. It just doesn't seem like they're kind of going that way. They're just taking their players that they like. So we'll see what they decide. I mean, you feel like they got to just stay heavy offense today, correct?
I tend to believe so. Go ahead, Jack. Go ahead.
You would assume, but at the end of the day, if there's an edge there, if there's a safety there, though, they're both positions that make a lot of sense. And when you're this late in the draft, you're just swinging for anyone that you're not even looking for guys that go, hey, we think this guy can become a starter. If he can, then amazing. But you're looking at some guys going, oh, he can be the third safety for the next 3 years. That's a good return. And it's one that I was kind of looking into numbers and obviously seeing what they've done they've set themselves up with 3 picks in the top 2 rounds. And if you can sustain that, and I'd like to look back and see what the Eagles have done, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're a team that if you draft 3 guys in the top 2 rounds every year over an 8-year spell and you expect these guys to be second contract players, that's 24 starters. You only need 22. So it's one that you're putting yourselves in a nice position. If ideologically, I wouldn't shock me if that's where the Browns want to position themselves as a team long term of going, we want 3 top 2 round picks every single year. If you do that consistently, you're getting all your starters out of those picks. And then you're looking at, hey, there's an odd free agent, an odd trade that you can add an extra one to because some will miss. But I can see that as a position view.
I think you got to look at best well at this point because there are some guys of value on the board. Just safety isn't an area I really like. Billy Bowman. I talked to you guys already about that. Mickens is there. I like Bowman significantly better.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at tackle, which is or guard, either one, as well. Cameron Williams still on the board, and Ahani Cornelius is another guy that I kind of had earmarked in this range that I think could help in the tackle room. So these are just a couple other guys I think that are worth keeping an eye on with Ayo Maynor and Royals at wide receiver.
And the New York Jets have decided to draft a wide receiver who can't catch. So it's a bold strategy. Taking Georgia's Arian Smith, who had 10 recorded drops this year. He was part of the issue that I had when people were evaluating Carson Beck. I was like, look at what Carson Beck has to throw to this year. And it's like Arian Smith can fly, but like he's dropping quick slants. Like he doesn't track the ball well for a speed guy. So they take him, and then a really good pick that I'm really mad at. Here's Howie Roseman doing some Howie Roseman stuff. He takes defensive tackle Ty Robinson out of Nebraska for the that's with what the Eagles already have. They're like, oh, we lost a couple defensive linemen. That's all right. Reload.
It's wild. Great value. I love Ty Robinson through the whole process. Good value pick there.
All right, so that was the Eagles at 111. Again, the Cleveland Browns will be up at 126. Right now, we're waiting on the Saints. So the next few picks, the Saints, the 49ers, the Panthers, the Cardinals, and the Dolphins. Those are the next 5 that are on the clock. Again, as we barrel towards pick 126, and we'll see the direction the Cleveland Browns choose to go. As far as the thing that I keep thinking is as we get into this day 3, and again, you always want to draft players with the hope that they're going to jump up and they're going to reach their potential and be big time impact players and whatnot. But as we get further and further into day 3, and I know we talked about this a little bit earlier in the week, but I do think that just with these little tweaks that they continue to make to rules in the NFL, especially the kickoff rules in the NFL, I do think guys that these teams believe are going to be productive on special teams are going to just become more valuable because the NFL is trying to ensure that things like kickoffs aren't just automatic touchbacks anymore. They're trying to encourage more returns. And I think they did last year have more returns, and I think it's only going to go up again this year. And so you would imagine guys that teams can view as special teams aces are going to be more valuable, especially maybe round 6, round 7 of this draft, right?
Yeah, I tend to think too, in my personal opinion, like round 6 and round 7, those guys, that's pretty much how those guys make the roster anyway. I think it's kind of been my thing is a lot of them have to be able to be special teams contributors, because if the bottom of your depth chart can't be special teams contributors, I'm not exactly sure what they're doing there, because then you're putting higher ranked players out on special teams and stuff, and then you're risking those sorts of things. But the return of the returner then makes it even more enticing, because it's returners and gunners and, all the special teams blockers, and you know what I'm saying, all the non-return positions of that. You add that in there. There is some questions, by the way, about Casey Kinnaman's stomach. And Mike, I think you and Brad had an update about that. I was told you guys had an update you wanted to share about that.
Yeah, so not only did he eat the spam, but it was bad spam, apparently. He is
bad spam. That stuff goes to like war with like soldiers.
I don't know. This is the
spam and
report
Twinkies.
me and Mike got late last night, that he is vomiting profusely and not feeling well. He is in a dark room somewhere with a cold compress on his head, trying to keep water down at this point. So the spam did him in harshly. So not only spam, but somehow he got some contaminated or bad spam. So spam Kinnaman is down.
Honest, there was a time I thought I heard his stomach rumbling through his mouth.
I could feel it on his teeth last night. He could feel the spam on his teeth, which was very uncomfortable for him. Go ahead.
Can you produce an injury report and tweet it?
Oh, please, someone make a graphic, and it's like Casey.
Oh yeah. Someone take one of like take one of the Friday ones, probable, questionable, and just have the injury be
spam.
Spam related.
Casey Kinnaman is highly unlikely.
Come on, I got 1,400 in here. I'm sure one of you guys are good with Photoshop.
One of you is bound to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, that's what I even said. I was like, I don't know why he kept eating it. I was like, no, you passed the test. Okay, you put some in your mouth. And then you just look down and he put the bowl down like it was, oh, man.
Yeah.
Casey, we're thinking about you, brother.
Yeah. Seriously. Thoughts out. Positive thoughts for Case.
Things try to be a good joke, and IR designated to return.
Yeah.
I'm throwing it out there. I think that was set up to happen before Casey tried one bite of that spam.
Yeah.
I've never seen somebody so nervous and mortified to try spam in my entire life. Casey was not ready for what was happening there. So shout out to him.
Nor with his body, obviously.
Yeah, I think
he's going tomatoes away from him today.
Yeah, no tomatoes. Scare him.
Yeah, he's going through the same thing I did at basic training when I was eating MREs. Like it's just like when you first, they always make the joke that that MRE stands for meal ready to exit, and that's or meal refusing to exit. It depends.
I'm just super glad we're talking about this right now. This is why you're tuned in. This is why you're tuned in.
Ooh,
meal ready to exit.
Good.
Oh, baby. Well, yeah. Sorry, Casey. Sorry, you're not feeling well.
Jack, you're muted.
Sorry to the Kidman family.
Jack, muted.
Yeah.
Somebody do a voiceover.
Around, so parents' dog's crashing here, so I keep trying to mute myself to stop that. But the 2 picks here. So Oklahoma linebacker Danny Stutzman.
Yep.
The Saints. Well worth a jump on your phones, search for Marcus Mosher. There's a basketball game where he's just smashing a dumbbell. It looks like he's waiting to go back in and fight someone, but great little video. And then the 49ers draft defensive tackle CJ West from Indiana.
It's a good pick.
Yeah, I like that CJ West pick a lot. He was like, if they hadn't taken Mason Graham and they looked to go defensive tackle on day 2, CJ West was kind of that guy for me. So I'm actually kind of surprised he lasted this long. Similar pass rush win rate, a little bit smaller, but really good burst, and actually probably at his best when he's a nose tackle. So yeah, I think he was a pretty fun pretty fun
the
prospect.
Browns, the run right here is on a lot of positions. The Browns addressed very early in this draft at defensive tackles and linebackers. Also getting some safeties coming off the board, some running backs off the board here in the 4th round. So pretty standard stuff as far as what we usually see when we get to this first part of day 3 as the run on those players continue. But if you're a Browns fan, and again, you're wanting them to address something like the wide receiver room, then you want this run to continue on the way that it is going. Right 100%. Now, there's still plenty of good players, especially if they want to amp up that wide receiver room on the board.
I just was going to ask, Mr. Irrelevant this year is 257. That sounds right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the Georgia wide receiver that the Jets selected was the consensus board, Mr. Irrelevant. So basically almost 150 picks.
And I was really liking their draft. I thought they were having a pretty good draft. You know, you get Armand Membu opposite Olu Fashino. You're like, all right, we've got some bookend tackles. Like we're doing
Taylor, Thomas were nice moves. Yep.
Yeah, you're like, cool. Aaron, you know, it was a very Aaron Glenn's tight Glenn, you know, like you could feel it, right? And you're like, yeah, this is a Detroit Lions feel with Aaron Glenn coming in. And then they were like, you know what? Just take a fast guy that can't catch. That's just listen, we're experts at fast guys that can't catch. Don't do it.
Yep. I messaged Pete about Casey. And Pete, great content.
Correct.
Always thinking about the brand.
Obviously. We should I feel like we shouldn't say the brand too much, the S Meat brand, because you know, I feel like we're giving away a lot of free advertising here. That's lot true. Of free ads.
And so. God forbid they start sending us boxes.
They just start showing. How'd you get my address?
No. Totally on me, man. Out of the goodness of my heart.
All right, so as we barrel through the Carolina Panthers, they have just made a pick, so I'll play the sound and.
Interesting.
Trevor Etienne, amazing! I nailed that surname.
Yes,
he's got a brother. I'm sure you know his brother, right?
His brothers.
That was the joke.
Oh, okay.
Jack is the name master here. Jack, you just say it, and we're gonna roll with whatever you say.
Yeah. Do you remember last year when I absolutely destroyed our poor wide receiver selection?
I don't.
Which one was it?
Because I kept calling him Chamari Trash, and I couldn't stop doing it.
Oh yes, that's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I'm still not over Ashton Gentry from this year's draft. So listen, but we appreciate it.
The sound that good though, man. He makes it work though. You know what I'm saying? With the accent, it makes it work.
It's dignified and respectable. All right. So as we get closer, we'll break things down as we get to within maybe 7 picks. We'll break down who's available for the Browns and talk about who we want them to wind up with. But I think there's another thing here that I notice as we go through this draft, and I noticed 2 distinct styles of teams. And I don't know that I love the side that the Cleveland Browns tend to go on when you get into these drafts, but you watch some of these other teams, and we talk a lot about how, take the Ravens, for example. It always just feels like guys fall into their laps. Or the Eagles, it feels like guys fall into their laps, right?
Yeah.
But I almost feel like it's because they let guys fall into their laps, and then they just make the pick with the guy that fell into their lap. You see other teams, and unfortunately, I think maybe some of us would agree that this would be the Browns this year, where it feels like they're trying to get the guy before other people can get the guy. They're like, well, maybe this guy is ranked a little bit lower. Maybe the positional value isn't as great, but we're going to get the guy so nobody else can. This year, it really feels like you can really separate teams based on the way that they are doing that, doesn't it?
I agree, but when you're talking about some of these better teams, and I think one of the things that they do so well is you identify the weakness in a player, and then you establish whether or not that weakness matters. You know what I'm saying? Like how many times do we hear, oh, well, he's an undersized edge? Guess what Philadelphia's going to say? Don't care. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take 10. If I can get, I'll take 10 more pounds off him if I can get another half a tenth on his 40. And I think that's, certainly that, and that comes with, certainly being entrenched and being there for so long and, using somebody like Philly, you know what I'm saying? The guys under Howie Roseman, they're already through. Oh, wait, you know what? Okay. Oh, he's only 6'2 1/4. He's, 3 cone. All right, let's send that up to Howie because this is going to be right. Like the prime example of that probably was, Jalix Hunt last year. It was just a guy that nobody knew what to do with. Oh, he's a really nice football player in Philadelphia. No problem. Just go 100 million miles an hour and kill the quarterback. That's all we need you to do. And, guy went on to obviously have a ridiculous Super Bowl, and, you just, the other thing though, is also when you are that established, nobody ever seems to notice that you had a miss or two, right? I mean, Howie Roseman has missed. He has. But nobody will ever talk about it because he's the one that basically pulls up the grade for the rest of the class.
Well, and it took Howie Roseman 7 years to win a playoff game. It took him 7 years to build that. I'm with you. I just think you should draft as many good football players as you can because that's what those teams do. They just draft a good football player. But I would like to comment not on the picks, but on the trade that Houston just went up to pick 116. They get the pick 116, which is a fourth. And they also get a seventh back. They gave up a sixth this year and next year's third to go up to do this. Yeah, I don't. The pick's not in yet,
but if you think about it, but if you also think about it this way though, Jacob, if you're Houston, you're thinking hopefully that pick's in the 90s.
Fair.
You know what I'm saying? You've already addressed. You're trying to address your offensive line. You address wide receivers, and Houston, look, they move a lot. They do a lot of moving around and stuff. So,
well, we'll see who they pick. But I do want to get.
It's a good comment there on Bo, but I think they already kind of hit. They're off, but we'll see. It could be another offensive lineman. Buckeye to Ohio State.
I do want to give Barry the chance to make an announcement here. Barry, why don't you throw this announcement out there?
Muted.
Oh, you're muted.
You're on
Barry.
mute.
Stupid dog. Cody Simon is off the board.
Stupid dog.
The best pick announcement ever. Stupid dog Cody Simon has been drafted.
The other
I'm
one
here
is
with a barking machine. I constantly put myself on mute. I relate to Jack.
the Texans draft Woody Marks as well.
There's an episode of my old show that starts with me yelling at the bird, and it was never edited out. So it starts right before we go to the little video cut of effing bird. You were listening to that. And I'm like, guys, nobody edited this out.
Nobody listened to just check.
No, he said because it was just too good. It was just too good. So like I was getting messages for like weeks, like, how's the effing bird? And I'm like, are you in my house? How do people know I even have a bird?
And you show it so much love as well, for sure.
I am not a bird person though.
So Cody Simon off the board. Barry, it seems like the Arizona Cardinals, they like to sniff around that school in Columbus, Ohio, as they pick up another Buckeye and Cody Simon. So your thoughts on the linebacker out there in Arizona?
Oh, I think they got a pretty good linebacker. Obviously, I stopped dreaming of him to the Browns when we made our second round pick, but he's a solid guy, good linebacker. Was an effective part of that team that, by the way, won a national championship. So,
Did they?
Yeah. I like to point that out. Just it's subtle, but every once in a while, I like to
It's subtle.
keep that in there.
It is subtle.
Does anyone know this Woody Marks, the running back of Mississippi State that the Texans have drafted? Because I'm searching in the consensus big board. I can't find anything about him.
It's Jaquavius Marks from USC. That's his real name.
Yeah.
Cheers.
That's a choice. I have like 245. I have him like 245 on my board. He's 24. Really good receiver. He's a really good receiver.
Yeah.
But that's I don't think that you trade a future third for Woody Marks. I think
He's
that's
a scat back, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is they traded a future third to go get a running back in maybe the deepest running back class in the history of the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is a
5'10",
little puzzling.
He- it- 5'10",
Right.
208, and he's like his yards above expectation are like non-existent. Like he gets what you expect him to get, and Scatback's probably the best way to put it, Brad. I think he's just very inconsistent vision and indecisiveness. He likes to dance around a little too much when he's got the ball. He's a great he's a great wide receiver out of the backfield. He could do those things, but I don't know that I trade a future first or a future third to go up and get him in the 4th round.
We may have an interesting development here as the Los Angeles Rams have just traded up to the next pick, and they're one of those last remaining teams that people are thinking maybe this could be the quarterback. But Jack, you've got it. So what do you got for the Rams?
They draft one of my 3 hunters, Jacquiz Hunter.
Ooh,
They come up for
Auburn.
or the running back out of Auburn. That kid's
Literally the Auburn offense.
Yeah, he was like the most quiet SEC stud running back that I can remember, because usually SEC running backs, you hear a ton of noise about him, and you never really did. But man, for years there at Auburn, he's an animal. I like his prospects too. I think he is built to be an NFL running back. So look out for Hunter there in LA with the Rams.
that's a great fit.
Yeah, also, I mean, they were also putting way too many carries on Kieran Williams anyway. Kieran Williams was not a full-size running back, and he was going 20+ week in, week out. It was probably something they had to do. But I mean, again, look, I mean, you get a couple of running backs that go here, linebacker that run here. Not really a position. I think, I mean, I'm not, I do want one more running back, and I've got my guys. So they want to exasperate all these guys that I don't have much interest in here right now, or take guys 50 picks early, or trade up to take a guy 50 picks early. Yeah. Again, though, that's when we're going to find out, there's some obscure safety who played Division II Canadian college football that, maybe the Browns were interested in.
Well, again, you're here on the OBR Draft Cave as we get up to the top of the hour, as we are pick 118 is the Falcons, and they actually just made the pick, and there goes the safety, Billy Bowman, off the board.
Damn.
From Oklahoma. He's a really good player, and he's off the board to the Atlanta Falcons.
He's got one of the weirdest builds I've ever seen in my life. I didn't know human beings can have arms that short.
He's got short arms and small hands, and yet he still is able to make he's a T-Rex. That should be his nickname. Still, he's able to make a ton of plays for that Oklahoma defense. So good player there, heads to Atlanta. So officially on to pick 119 and Cincinnati. And again, we're approaching the Cleveland Browns at 126. And so now let's really start talking about, boys. Throw the one or two names out that you want the Browns. Now that you see who's on the board as we approach this pick, throw out the one or two names that you want to see the Browns go after here.
My 2 are still there. So
do you want me to say it for you,
I'm
Jack?
happy. Yeah, I'll say Cam Williams, and I'll share the other one with you.
Yes. Elikai Manor. Like, I love Elikai. Size, speed guy. Like, oh my goodness. Like, Brad, let me ask you something. Would you forgive them a little bit for the Dylan Gabriel pick if they get Elikai Manor anyway?
Yeah, I would a little. I mean, it would make me feel better.
Okay.
My question, though, at this point is like,
why
is he falling? Right? What don't we know?
I'm going to try to do some digging and see if I can find out, but
I also think Braden Swinson would be a really nice pick here. He's still on the board. If you want to add your edge room and move off of,
I'm just going to say, I don't agree with you on bringing in Swinson, but I don't think Swinson necessarily fits the motif of this class. There were some issues in LSU. He's a guy that carries himself, basically a little bit, a little bit bigger than maybe he should. Doesn't always listen. I'll take him in a heartbeat. Absolutely, I will. But it'd be a case of one of those things, maybe not like the others.
Yeah,
But
well,
I'm
if
okay.
pick your guy. If you like Kennard better, or an Ivy better than that, then that's fine. If you like the kid better,
I
but
think you can get a receiver here, though. I'll be honest.
yeah, I
we've
mean,
been waiting. I don't. I think Horton would work really well as well.
That's my guy right there.
He's size 4.4 flat. He's got the production. He does have some return ability.
And I think if he didn't miss a big chunk of the year with an injury, we probably would have been talking about him much earlier.
and
that's fair point.
Royals is still there too.
Oh yeah, Royals.
I love Royals, man. Like Royals is in my top 10 too, and he was one of the guys on my guys list. And like
149 10-yard split is ridiculous.
yeah,
rocket up your ass fast.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
small.
And-
It's not like you have issues with his size either.
Hey,
Bengals,
Jeff, be careful.
we have a
Be,
pick.
be careful how you say that, Jeff. Just because if Casey's watching, I
Oh!
don't want him to get feeling some kind of way.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he probably feels that way right now. So we don't want to do that. No, it wasn't about the kid. It's fine.
He's like,
yeah.
no, not like, don't worry about that part.
Oh yeah, no, she hears worse. We have a pick to the Bengals. So now that we are in the division, let's make that pick here.
Second one.
A linebacker. We rejoice that they don't respect positional value. Barrett Carter.
Clemson.
Demetrius Knight as well. Or am I losing the plot?
They did. Yeah, that is in fact 2 linebackers for the Bengals. But I will say their defense was horrid. So throwing a bunch of prospects at it, like I get it.
That's all they can do. They can't go sign anybody.
Yeah,
Oh.
they did. Yeah, okay. I'm not gonna.
Tennessee's
Carter's
going to
a
be
player.
interesting here on the clock. Barrett Carter's a nice player. He's a nice player. Yes.
He is. Are the Steelers taking? Are they going to take shit or there?
We got the Tennessee pick if you guys want to ding it.
Go for it. Oh, that's not a bad pick.
Yeah, Gunnar Helm finally comes off the
Yeah.
board. Like him as a tight end prospect. Tennessee doing a
everybody
nice job
felt-
with this draft.
Tennessee's
everybody
putting some
fell in love.
weapons around Ward. I like it.
Everybody fell in love with Helm. I mean, you got to talk about a guy rolling an ankle, running a 40 at the combine, and you still went out there and kept working out. I mean, it obviously explained for the poor testing or whatever, but, when you're not a first round guy, that certainly impresses people, who are making decisions, hey, he might not practice on Wednesday or Thursday, kind of, oh, good Lord. Why am I forgetting his name now? The old center that was the NFL Players Association.
JC Treader.
JC Treader. Yes.
That's
JC
right.
Treader, who you would see him in a walking boot going out of the locker room on Sunday. He'd wear the walking boot till Thursday, put on practice clothes, stand out there on Friday, but somehow was able to fire it up again every Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know how JC Treader would do that. You'd be like, he's going to IR. Then he'd go out there and just like block his butt off and be the best offensive lineman they had on Sunday. You're like, okay, whatever, dude.
I had somebody once message me. They're like, I'm watching JC Treader get driven out of the building on the golf cart, got off the golf cart to crutches to get in the car and go home. He's like, yeah, this is going to be an issue. And there he was the next week.
I just want to show something real quick.
Yes.
This is
Sometimes
awesome.
we can't avoid the kids in the room. That's cool. But I want to point out, I did not put this on her. This is her
Smart
choice.
girl.
Is this your favorite hat? It's her favorite hat. She loves the brownies. And it just goes to prove we don't choose this life. We don't choose this life. We are born into this.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for her because she's going to have to suffer through everything that we've suffered through. But she picked this, or she was born into this. So
About
that's
how
it.
old?
There's
About how
appearance.
old, Mike?
She'll be 4 next month.
Yeah, talk to me in about 14 years or so, and 18. Yeah, my girls are 18 and 17. Love every minute of this, my friend.
Yep.
Listen,
Go ahead, Jack.
a piece of insight and advice. What's the difference between terrorists and teenage girls?
Oh man.
I'm listening.
You can negotiate with terrorists.
Fair.
Man.
Oh, that's 100%.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ooh, I like that pick. For the Bucks.
Teenagers, three-nagers, they're all the same. Yeah, we had another player go off the board at 121.
One player.
Yeah, David Walker, the pass rusher from Central Arkansas, hyper productive, like a ton of sacks at Central Arkansas. Stayed at Central Arkansas even though he had some chances to go elsewhere. Pretty good size, 6'2", 260, 6'1". He has pretty good movement skills, a relatively diverse bag of moves. Had a pass rush win rate this year of 21%. He's just kind of a relentless guy because he is a little under like the 6'1". There's some length issues there, but I think he can win with speed and power. He was a guy that I liked for the Browns in this range a lot coming into the process, but he's going to have a big step up. But he had 12, 9, and 16 sacks the last 3 years. So just a guy that just knows how to get to the quarterback.
I hate to be that guy, but I'm gonna.
Okay.
This
I
is
love it when you're that
where
guy.
yeah, of course I am. And the chat's gonna hate me for this probably, but this is where though this pick is where preferably I would have taken Luther Burden at 33, and you have an elite wide receiver in your room, or take your pick your style, and then I would have addressed linebacker here.
Right
in
now,
this
yeah.
area. This is the value zone of linebacker. There's some good guys on the board that I think can make an impact. Now, is Schlesinger going to be a 10 times better player than one of these guys? Maybe so. But there are guys here that I like, and it's more of the right place in this draft personally to take a linebacker than 33, where you had a ton of elite players still left on the board.
I think Fred just got the latest pick.
Well, real quick, Barry,
to
we'll let
say.
you do this one. Anytime there's a Buckeye, we'll let you do one. There's a Buckeye off the board to the Carolina Panthers, so we'll let you do this one, Barry.
Latham Ransom is off the board, safety. And I was just about to hector you guys about the fact that I thought I was turning you into Buckeye honks with all the nice words about Jack Sawyer, and then Ransom never got mentioned as a potential Browns pick. Does he play the wrong safety position, or is there a reason why the Browns wouldn't have picked him?
Yeah, he's more of a box strong safety coming down, plays the run.
Very much like Delpit.
Yeah. That's why I wouldn't have done it, but he was my 5th ranked safety on the overall. So I like Ransom a ton. That dude loves contact. Like he wants to dish out some hits anytime he even gets a chance, even if it's not the ball carrier. He's looking to stick a hat on a hat. I'm a big fan. I just think that they need a deep safety, and that's the only reason I wouldn't have taken Ransom for Cleveland.
A little curiosity as to Pittsburgh on the clock here right now.
I know I am scouring Twitter to try to get it as soon as it happens, but I can't find anything yet.
I mean, we focus so much about what we do here in Cleveland, but I mean, Pittsburgh's quarterback room is real bad right now. That's a mess of a quarterback situation there. So you got to think they're at least going to think about it. It may not be Sanders, but they got to be thinking about a quarterback at some point, right?
Ours isn't much better.
I know, but I'm just saying it's not normal in Pittsburgh. But what they got Mason Rudolph back? Good old.
We've got at least
dense
2 quarterbacks that would start in Pittsburgh at the moment, so it's certainly better.
What do you mean? We have Pittsburgh's guy they cut out of their organization. Who would they start in Pittsburgh? What quarterbacks would they start? Tell me.
They would start Flacco, and they would start Kenny Pickett over what they've got.
And probably Dylan Gabriel.
They got rid of Kenny Pickett.
We got rid of Baker Mayfield. He'd still start for the Browns.
Kenny Pickett has done nothing to redeem himself yet.
Oh no!
Won a Super Bowl.
Harry
the
wants to read this
Steelers.
one or not.
Steelers take Jack Sawyer.
Hold on. Yeah. Oh, all right.
Oh no, I'm
Let
so
Barry
sorry.
do it. I let Barry do the Buckeyes.
I'm sorry,
Jack
Barry.
Sawyer.
Jack Sawyer
just-
to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he'll turn into an All-Pro.
Whoa.
I don't know about that.
I was curious if this makes him dead to you now, though, Barry. How does this work?
No, I just am expecting him to maximize his potential because he's going to Pittsburgh, and that's the way it always works.
Well,
So
it's a shame. I mean, TJ
typical
Watt's just going to have
Cleveland
to pack
Browns
the bags.
cynicism.
Yeah.
TJ Watt's not getting an extension now. You just picked up Jack Sawyer in the 4th round. It's over for TJ. Out to San Francisco, go play with your brother.
Right after I just called him the very poor man's version of TJ Watt. Boom. Pittsburgh comes up and grabs him. So now we're officially 2 picks away from the Cleveland Browns, though. The Green Bay Packers, the Los Angeles Chargers at 124 and 125, and the Browns will be on the clock at 126 with a lot
Let's do
of
it, baby.
potential. What's that?
Oh, no.
We'll see. Let's put this back up here and see how many of these players are still out there as we approach that pick. Still got some players on the board. Obviously, some of these guys have gone. Jack Sawyer has gone. Who else is off this list so far?
Bowman,
Simon,
Helm,
So basically,
Scatterbrain.
go back.
Robinson, Craig
Ty
Woodson.
Rabbit.
Safety. He's right there.
Don't look at the right side of the list, basically.
Yeah, except
Except
for
for-
Royals.
Yeah.
Except for the one that I want on the right side. Like that's the only one left on the right side of is one of the ones that you should get, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I can't find anybody tipping picks. I must be bad at Twitter.
We're on the clock though.
Yep.
Am I behind?
It's
Green Bay
really-
No.
picked this
Really
in.
hard. It's really hard to have somebody really be accurate with tipping picks on day 3.
Yeah. They come so fast, too.
Exactly.
If they pick Io Manor, if he comes up and they pick Io Manor,
I'll feel
my
better.
question is, Barry, am I allowed to use my allotted one F word?
A neuter?
Absolutely.
A neuter F-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It would be worth it. It'd be worth it.
I feel like you got to use it if they take him or if they don't take him with that.
You just do it. It'll either be F yeah or F no, right? Like it's just one or the other.
Correct.
I'm good with that. Like it's like a PG.
You gotta think some Ivy League guys would have interest.
It's like a Roger looks. I don't know.
Roger
That's
looks thin.
He does. It's an interesting outfit.
They took
We've
all
got
right,
the
hit
Packers
it.
pick.
All right.
Yeah.
We got it. Wait, who's
We
pick?
have
do
a Packers pick, yes.
Packers.
All right.
Defensive end Aaron Sorrell. That's
Yeah.
1-2.
Aaron Sorrell. Okay, or Sorrell. I don't know what it is.
Does that feel like a reach a little bit at edge? Or do you like him there?
Let's see. I've got him. Yeah, I had him around this range. I had him as edge 13, right behind Landon Jackson. This is probably about the range.
He's got good style.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just now seeing that. Yeah, he does.
28 reps of 225. And we were talking, Green Bay is one of these teams where, and I don't mean cookie cutter, but literally their prospects at their positions. I mean, literally, you can just know the guys before you even look at tape or you look at production. It is, you have to be this height, you have to be this weight, arm length. They're pretty legit about that. 28 reps, though, at 255 is pretty impressive. I ain't gonna lie to you.
It's hard
Yeah,
to
we'd
argue
see the
with
Green
that kind
Bay.
of discipline.
Weird to see Green Bay select anything other than a wide receiver.
Wow.
They're a
We are
team.
waiting
They're a
for-
team. If you want a wide receiver, you can call another team. You can call in New England. You look at New England. They spent a 2nd-round pick on Jalen Polk last year. Jalen Polk is probably a 3rd stringer on that New England Patriot roster right now.
The one they want to trade is Butte.
I'll still take
No,
him.
thank you. Did you say you'll take him?
Absolutely. Gets open.
That was my fantasy football name last year. Was my team is Butte.
Well, then we got to get him somehow.
Did your team?
I mean, it
finish
was
that
fair. It
group?
was a bad team. It was a bad team.
All right, so again, we're waiting. I still haven't seen anything come out on the Chargers pick. That was 125, but we do have the pick is
hold
in
on.
for the
It's,
Browns.
it's not the pick, but we have content from Brad Steinbuck saying running back. They are
Oh.
drafting a running back here.
All right, so who are the best
tells me
available running backs?
Dylan
think it's-
Sampson is the best available.
Dylan
Damian
Sampson and
Martinez.
Quinshawn would be insane.
I like. There's one I like that pairs probably a little bit more with Quinshawn, and that's a guy I love the entire process. It might be. I think it's probably early, but LaQuint Allen out of Syracuse, 60 receptions last year, 1,000 yards, 20 touchdowns. You know, you're trying to get what is going to be. You got to keep in mind it's not going to be a one dude room. You know what I'm saying? You know, we all got comfortable with Chubb for years. Going to be interesting who that name is. I'm trying to think.
Devin Neal, it would be a nice compliment to Judkins. I think a guy that can catch the ball out of the
Maybe.
backfield. DJ Giddens, Jordan James. There's a lot of good. I mean, as we mentioned, there's so many good backs in this class. You can pick whatever style you want here.
With an investment this high, we're probably talking about Chubb or Ford. With Ford being on 3.4 million, that's probably going to be a decision between one or the other because they're not trending in the direction of taking 4 to the 53-man roster. Obviously, that can change over time, but as we stand now, that will be an interesting decision point.
Oh,
Well, I've seen it. I've seen a name. I don't know if we want to tweet it out yet or say it out yet.
Oh, I'm still waiting for the pick before, so go.
Yeah, I was say I don't
Chargers
even
pick.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't see that Chargers.
I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for right now, just because until one other person maybe says something. But right now, our former OBR cohort, Corey Kinnan, who was on top of picks yesterday, has tweeted out the name of who the Browns are selecting. So let's give it a minute. Oh, there we go. So now we can hit it.
Ah,
So with pick 126, the Browns indeed are going running back, and they will take out of Tennessee running back Dylan Sampson.
hey, look who called it. Look who called it. I think
Hey,
Dylan
man.
Sampson of all the running backs that are still on the board there, I think Dylan Sampson is probably one of the perfect complements to what they already had. Incredibly explosive. Like you're talking about getting the offense more explosive, getting field stretching ability. I like this pick a lot, man. Like that's a value pick. I had Dylan Sampson on my big board. Not that my big board matters and that people care, but Dylan Sampson was the 50th ranked player on my board. I had him all the way up at 50. He comes off the board at 126. One thing that I love is the patience and vision paired with the explosiveness, because you're talking about what is it that made Nick Chubb so great? His ability to identify cutback lanes and his ability to then utilize them. And what I also really loved about Nick Chubb in his prime was you just watched him let his block set up. He would always let Joel get in front of him or Wyatt get in front of him or whoever it was. That's what Dylan Sampson does. He's a patient, explosive runner. He's a little bit smaller, about 200 pounds. He's not 21 yet. He's 20.6. So I know that'll at least make Jack a little bit happy. That it at least has that aspect of it. But man, like makes great decisions, can cut on a dime. I think him and Judkins, I think that's really nice. I think it's a really good pair.
I like
Love it.
Sampson, and you know he's 5'8" and change, and he actually uses it to his advantage because there are a lot of instances, you know, where he is going through, you know, basically through the line, linebacker hole, all that type of stuff, and you really don't necessarily see him. And then all of a sudden you kind of look up and there he is 10 yards down the field and he just goes. I mean, set the Tennessee touchdown record at running back. I mean, there's been some dudes that rolled through Tennessee. So that's very
Hardesty.
impressive. And yeah, sure. But I mean, Jamal Lewis, I mean, you name it. They're different running backs that went through that school. And yeah, absolutely. To Jacob's point, I mean, kid ain't 21 till September 14th, man. He's going to play in his first NFL game before he can buy himself a beer. I mean, certainly fits, one of the things here. And, I mean, we're going to have some conversations. And, I still think Nick somehow comes back here. But you're telling me I'm rolling with, Quinshawn Judkins and Dylan Sampson in my running back room for at least the next 4 years. I mean, that'll play. That'll play.
He reminds me a bit of like a Tyrone Tracy a little bit.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and smaller, really good balance, explosive, good vision and patience, but one cut agility, long speed is there, consistently moving forward, doesn't go down. Dude, you add him with Judkins. Listen, I've been slandering the quarterback room. At least you will have a running game, right, with these guys. Like, I mean, if you're going to do anything at this point, you can run the football and try to put the quarterback in the best possible situation. Pairing these two together makes a ton of sense. Maybe you add an offensive lineman. I mean, the fact that they kept Teller and they added Jenkins to the offensive line. I like what they did with Cornelius, adding him as a swing tackle. So you've got some ability to maybe, ground and pound this thing and put whoever is playing quarterback in a real advantageous situation, which is really all you can do if you're, in this situation at quarterback. So Sampson, Judkins together, fantastic.
No, I really like this move. The strength of the draft is running back, so it makes sense to invest in the running back. The same way, if the strength of the draft was offensive tackle, I'd be saying, hey, let's just take 2 offensive tackles. So you get late in this draft, and there's no point taking guys where you're like, hopefully they can develop into being a piece. Whereas this guy, we should know he should be able to do that, and you're getting more talent here than you normally would if we were picking another spot. So personally, I can find it. I think it makes a lot of sense. I would rather have used pick 36 on something else, but we're at where we're at. But Jerome Ford is definitely on the bubble. People have not liked it when I mentioned it last year, and I really doubled down again this year. That is purely because it's 3.4 million. If we were talking about him being 1.4 million, we are not having the same conversation.
But here's my retort to that though. In the year of running back, who's coming to take him off your hands for 3.4 million? Because like the Jets were just going through this same thing with Breece Hall. Well, that's great. You get 1 year Breece Hall, and he's going to want a contract extension. Why are you going to do that when you can just get as many running backs here are available? Basically rookie minimum 4 years. So I mean, I know the way you think, and I don't disagree with it necessarily, because basically what you're saying is you're going to get both these kids cheaper than what you're going to pay Jerome Ford. But the problem is the old 2 to tango. Everybody knows it's right now it is a cheap running back market, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm talking a straight up cut. I'm not talking about some trade. He's got $0 guaranteed. If they prefer Nick Chubb to Jerome Ford, that's the decision. Do you prefer Jerome Ford or Nick Chubb? It's one that they can say, hey, we don't want Nick Chubb in the building. We're happy with Jerome Ford at 3.4 million. They can certainly really push Jerome Ford down to a massive pay cut on that and give some guarantees. But Jerome Ford's chances of being on the roster at 3.4 million are really, really dwindling, especially if these two have a good preseason.
So just a side note, I got a text from Casey Kinnaman just now. So he is alive.
Yeah.
He's alive.
He's able to text, so that's a plus.
Yeah, that's improvement. He said that the first time he jumped on a conference call with Daniel Jeremiah this offseason, he asked him which running backs he would list, which running backs fit in Stefanski's wide zone scheme. He named 5 backs. Judkins and Sampson were 2 of them.
Interesting.
I think they're just complementary pieces. I just think it's like yin and yang, man. Like the best
well, the
of
thing
both
I like
of them.
though is
No, go ahead.
they got what, 2 of the top 11 or 12. I mean, because we were talking at a time there were I think it was, and Jacob, you probably have a high number too. At one time, there was 32 draftable running backs, which meant one for everybody. But it's not like you took number 3 or number 4 and number 31. I mean, you took 2 brand name running backs here. Those 1:00 starts are going to be over by 3:50 this year, guys. I mean, they're going to play defense and they're going to run the ball. That's the way. We're not going to be sitting around till 4:30. I don't think it's going to matter, honestly, who the quarterback is, because I mean, the emphasis. I mean, they're going to run the ball here, get back to what they did and did well. Hopefully, oof.
I still don't think
be the third down.
Yeah, I agree. I still don't think it impacts Chubb. I still think you bring him back.
Nick Chubb could come back at 67 years. If Nick Chubb wants to come back in a 1-year contract for the next 25 years, I don't think there's anybody in that building that's going to say no. It's because just what he means to the team. It was what he means to the franchise, and it's just the way he conducts himself.
And I had kind of talked about this in the same context as Jack, is that like, hey, you're going to take a really good back here and maybe a UDFA or a 6th round back. They went higher. They went more high profile with both backs in this class, which kind of changes the conversation around Ford, I think, for sure. Despite him being an efficient back for the Browns or whatever, and those numbers are a little skewed by his explosives, but he I mean, I would like them to bring back Chubb for everything he brings to the room. And even if he's your short yardage guy, whatever he can do, he legitimizes you, I think, somewhat. And I think that honestly, that puts Ford on his way out, honestly, or I don't know, practice squad. They probably not. Somebody will probably take him, right? I mean, you cut him, somebody will pick him up. Yeah.
He's been productive enough to where somebody's not going to have, he's going to be better than some fringe roster guys somewhere else. But you talked about it, Brad. I think I really like what you brought up there about Ford and the explosive plays kind of skewing some of the production there.
It does, yeah.
They then just went and got a guy that's more explosive to be their number 2 in Dylan Sampson. He's far more explosive than Jerome Ford. Not to knock on Jerome Ford, but I think he is better.
No,
and as a result, it's like, hey, let's upgrade it. Let's ground and pound. And I see some comments that are like, oh, they're just going to load the box. Boom. Play action Flacco, baby.
Yeah.
Well,
Flacco
it's the hot button.
Flacco and Judy could be something, man. Flacco and Judy,
and then don't forget what the year that the streak that Njoku had, and then throw in a dude that's almost as creative after the catch as Njoku and Harold Fannin. Like I'm sorry, like they could have done better because they could have taken more weapons, necessarily, but I'm starting to like the vision if it all comes together, and it's a big if. It's a very big if. But like I can see a vision of this team being competitive with these. But I would really, really need some more wide receivers, though. I really need that.
Yeah. So, I mean, at this point, I would just hope that they bring back Elijah Moore just for comfort with, with the system. And I mean, he hasn't been terrific, but he could be cheap and at least provide you. He's produced at a reasonable level.
Well, his best stretch was with Joe Flacco until he got a concussion.
100%.
With Flacco. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, Mike, I know you are I'm going to step out of here for a minute. I know you're going strong here and till 3, and then we'll swap out, but I'm just going to step out for a minute. You guys, I'll be back shortly. But love this pick. Hey, I'm enthused. How about that? Feeling really good about Sampson.
And Bruce Brad is back, baby.
Let's fucking go, baby. Let's run the ball right up.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Did you
right
drop
up their
F-bomb?
ass? Right up their ass. Yeah, I stole it. I stole the F-bomb.
Stole it. You took it from Jacob.
Brad.
I'm sorry. You can have one too. I'm permitted. That pick was so good. It's worth 2.
It's worth
selfish. All right, Brad's going to leave. It's a good time for me to jump in and remind you guys that if you think we look awesome, which we do, then you got to call our buddy Philly. Our shorts, our hats, well, my hat, a lot of the other OBR gear that you see out there, it's all provided by our friend Philly and his business 11 Creative. You know him as OG Philly on Twitter, Philly ASC on the boards at obr.com. Our buddy Scott Fillinger in the real world, or to when he's in trouble. But 11 Creative is a one-stop source for all of your marketing needs. Your logo and brand development, website design, print collaterals, social media graphics, and they can also do apparel like what they do for us through their 11 print program. So if you need t-shirts for a family reunion, staff apparel for your business, youth sports team, you name it, they can produce it at an affordable price and in a reasonable time frame. In addition to apparel, they can also produce promotional products, displays and signage, gifts and awards, and they can create e-commerce sites for your business or for fundraisers to sell and distribute products without you having to lift a finger. So contact our buddy Philly at 11 Creative for any of your marketing or event needs by email at scott@11-creative.com. That's scott@11-creative.com. All right. We got three of us in here. Time to clear our minds. Let's catch up a little bit. Jack, why don't you catch us up a bit, as we've had several picks go after the Browns. Took their running back there, so let's do this and have you catch us up.
Browns pick, the Colts selected offensive tackle Jalen Travis. Then the Commanders selected wide receiver Jalen Lane. And then the Ravens selected linebacker Teddy Buchanan. I think that's his name. Who knows? Only a linebacker,
Yep.
so I learned his name.
Nailed it. We do have one more pick that happened after that. The Jets took Malachi Moore, the safety from Alabama, so he's off the board as well.
I just want to jump in here with something real quick, okay? What has been the main bone of contention about everybody in this Cleveland Browns draft leading up to it and to this point already, right? If you draft defense, the Browns are going to now lose 19-13 instead of 19-12. Okay, you drafted 3 skill position players. You drafted Quinshon Judkins. You drafted Harold Fannin, and now you just drafted Dylan Sampson. These 3 combined last year in college football scored 49 touchdowns. So you got some playmakers here. Ideally, it's not at the wide receiver position, and let's be honest, this class was, to use Jacob's term, booty. This class was kind of booty. But you found other ways to address it. But you drafted 3 skill guys who combined for almost 50 touchdowns last year in college football. That is nice work. That is pretty good work right there for this team that obviously desperately needs a way to get more yards, get more points, stay on the field longer. So it may not be the way we all thought, basically the design of the apple cart was going to be, but these guys can play.
Let's look real quick, because the thing that is I 1,000% first of all agree with you, Jeff, and I've always hated that argument of you can't draft defense because you need your offense to be better, because when you have a really good defense, your offense is just inherently going to be on the field more, and it'll give them more chances to be better. Now you still need the players, and so an area I'm starting to get a little scratchy about the wide receiver position with the Cleveland Browns. Maybe they feel real good about Cedric Tillman, but we've seen some ups and downs with Tillman. Obviously, David Bell and Jamari Thrash, we know what Bell can do. Jamari Thrash, we haven't really seen what he can do, or Trash, however you call him, Jack. And you got Jerry Jeudy there. I know we're talking a lot about Elijah Moore, but when you think about guys that are still available, I don't know what player is going to be there for them in the 5th round at the wide receiver. But when you look at guys that are still unsigned and available, are there any guys? There's still a lot of free agents available. Teams like to wait on some of these guys until after they go through their draft. Are there any players that are out on the market that you want to see the Browns bring in to kind of shore up that wide receiver room? Not named Elijah Moore, because I think that conversation is happening with Cleveland Browns and Elijah Moore.
So I'd be intrigued on Keenan Allen. I know health is going to be the big question there, and as long as the medical's sound, the guy just catches the ball. So that is certainly a temptation to stick him in the slot. I'm still big braining my let's have the 2 tight end set and go full crazy. So trade Greg Newsome for Dallas Goedert, and then just don't worry about having 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends on the field all the time, and we just go for it. That really, really appeals to me. And then you bring in a more, and that's fine as a third. So no, I could certainly see that as a combo.
Jeff, what about you? You got any names out there that you think could come in and actually help the Browns at the wide receiver position?
I like where we're actually going with this idea because I mean, if what we're saying here is, first off, is anybody here, move the needle for you more than hopefully the Cedric Tillman that we saw for that 3 or 4 week stretch last year, right off the bat. I'm not saying anybody does. A Keenan Allen. The thing with that is what brings him here. With a guy like that, it's almost like it's like he's doing a favor for somebody who's doing a favor for him. There's really no real connection here. That would truly just be an older guy who still just wants to keep playing, type of thing. I am going to go back to it though. I mean, you're going to look at maybe Green Bay right now. You're going to maybe look at New England right now because there's going to be some guys that they're going to show up for camp. I mean, or even OTAs. They're going to be pissed. You know what I'm saying? And this already happened last year in Green Bay. I think it was Dobbs, right? Romeo Dobbs was the one last year who was already kind of getting pissy, like, hey, there's a million of us. Am I ever going to get a shot here? Probably handled it incorrectly. But for me right now, those are 2 teams I'm looking at right now and saying, well, I can't find, Jalen Polk was a 2nd-round pick last year. You got to go to the third range on the depth chart of the Patriots right now. And maybe I didn't go deep enough on my guys I should have been chasing. I was always looking for the guys who were getting close to contract status and swooping in, obviously Amari, obviously Jerry Jeudy. But there's a couple teams right now, and certainly New England would be a prime one because with those guys there, Vrabel, A, you got the relationship. B, Mike ain't got no contingency or hold up to any of these guys as it is right now anyway. So maybe it's not a guy that's on the free agent market. Maybe it's a guy that's currently wearing a jersey in another city.
What did I miss? Anything good?
That we were just having a conversation about the Browns adding some playmakers offensively, but even though and though they've done that, they have not added any playmakers to the wide receiver room.
Right.
So we started to talk about maybe potentially how the Browns might be looking to address that outside of the draft situation. There's still a lot of good wide receivers left. Who knows what's going to be there in the 160s, but we started looking at maybe either free agents. So then Jeff brought up a good point of teams that have kind of an overflow of wide receivers that some guys are going to want to get out of there. So we're just maybe bringing up some names of guys I did see in the comments. I thought it was just a funny callback. MPC in the comments said, call down to Houston and see what they're doing with John Mechie. Wasn't that the pick they stole from the Browns?
Yeah.
Didn't they trade up right in front of the Browns and grab Mechie, and the Browns were going to take Mechie?
The Browns had the intent. Yeah, that is exactly what happened.
It's Mechie as well, the Nico Collins.
Nico
the Browns
Collins.
were going to take Nico Collins. And then they traded up above him. And I think Kelby Joseph might have been another player the Browns really wanted because they wanted safeties, and then every time the Browns came on to pick, like 2 picks before, was a safety for like 3 picks in the draft.
Kirby Joseph is like one of my draft wins because I was all over him that year. And I know Jeff was too, because the interesting callback to those days. I was living in an apartment building, and I would walk my dog every morning for 30 minutes before I went to work, listening to Locked On Browns every day, Monday through, because I knew you'd always be there. You know what I mean? That was just kind of that comfort of you'd always have an episode out by the time I would go walk my dog. And
well, you guys will love this, actually, believe it or not, who actually, Browns wise, I remember who started, and he actually texted me yesterday, who started the Kirby Joseph train was good friend Stephen Thomas.
Yes. Yep.
It was Stephen Thomas. And, because even when he messaged me yesterday, he's like, hey, I just put the stream on. He's like, not much real interest. He's like, but I figured. And then he's like, then I saw the numbers you were doing, and I guess you didn't really need, my one view. And I was like, well, we appreciate you anyway. And I was like, bro, you're going to be here and you're not going to mention anything about Kirby Joseph just getting the bag.
Right.
And, Steven, I'm sure I got a couple of gifts after that. And, kind of imagine, I think it was the Dumb and Dumber one where he's leaning on the bar trying to look all sexy. Classic Stephen Thomas.
I remember Steven making his own GIF of him when he got verified, and he was like, "I'm better than you because I'm verified."
He took an ad read for me once, and he's like, "Just send over the copy." And we played it. He turned a 30-second ad read into like 3 minutes, which was basically for Blue Chew, which was like a chewing gum Viagra.
Yes.
And it was totally with the bum, 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 bow, 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 bow. I was like, what did I do?
You're like, I might get fired for this.
Correct. Yeah, we all miss Steven around here. I still talk to Steven a good bit. What a good guy.
He's always good about reaching out. He's always good about checking in on your kids. Great guy.
Always.
Yeah.
All right. Catch up on a couple picks. I think the last one we talked about was Malachi Moore, the safety that went to the Jets. So there's been a couple since then. So we'll play it.
I'm trying to update mine because I don't have the list in front of me. Hold on.
It looks like Jack's you're muted, Jack. Before you even start to talk, you're muted.
Just waiting for the refresh. So we've got the Jets selected safety Malachi Moore.
Okay, more.
New Orleans Saints selected safety Quincy Riley, and then Chicago Bears selected linebacker Ruben Hippolyte.
Hippolyte, but then my boy just went to the Chiefs.
Of
Go
course.
on, do that one.
Yeah, the pick 133, the Chiefs add some speed. They get Jalen Royals, the wide receiver from Utah State. That's a good pick. That is a good pick for them.
So Jalen Royals off to the Chiefs, cross one of those potential wide receivers off the board. And we are now sitting with the Denver Broncos getting ready to pick at 134. Again, the next Cleveland Browns pick is still about 32 picks away at 166. So we're going to wait for that one. And you just hope you don't go on a big run. Again, there's still good wide receivers out there. You hope nobody goes on a big run of receivers. Seeing Royals go off there first makes me a little bit nervous.
What did I mess up something here? Quincy Riley. Oh, I see what I did. I'm trying to keep up with things by doing a mock draft off to the side every time a pick comes up, and I just messed it up. I just messed it up pretty good.
Yeah, this is a really rapid pace. This is trying to do that route. God bless you.
It's like, I think PFF was like doing like a live update on their mock draft simulator though, so we'll see. Yeah, no, you're right though, Mike. Like we're starting to see some runs on some players. Like there wasn't runs on players at positions we wanted, and then all of a sudden there was. It's like you're like, oh, okay, now we're just gonna start taking.
Here's a great quote from Dylan Sampson in regards to what you actually liked about him, and from Sampson, it's I love counter runs. I think I have a good pace and tempo for it. A lot of great things can happen on a counter run, and I love getting two blockers out in front of me.
There you go. Yeah. That's exactly. And you know what? Someone brought this up because I want to touch on this just because I saw someone bring it up in the chat was talking about they need people to block for them when we were talking about the run game. That was something that came up, and I'm just like, I think we're underestimating how out of scheme their offensive line was last year. Like where I think just returning to what those guys were brought in to do more specifically. What did Joel say? He used to like pull 8 times a game, and they had him in pulling motion like 8 times all year, or just some ridiculous thing that they said at the end. Where I think that that, and you mix in if Lucas ends up being your left tackle, he's significantly better than anything else you had at left tackle last year. Just there, I think those two makes that offensive line maybe not dominant because I understand it's getting older, but they will look just from that point of view. They'll look a lot better, in my opinion.
I see people bringing up the name Isaiah Bond. I got to be honest, guys. I don't think the Cleveland Browns are going to touch Isaiah Bond.
No,
we talked a lot about character. He would be another tough one to go after.
I have, by the way, did a little bit of digging on Dylan Sampson. Good character.
Yep.
I went digging on the character side of things, and that's what I was told.
Jalen Lane,
Yeah,
I saw
so
one earlier today. I think somebody's asking about him too. I think he went right after Dylan Sampson went.
Yeah, he went.
Right in the Sampson
went
range.
to,
He went to
he went 2
Washington.
picks later. He went to Washington. Yeah, 2 picks after Sampson. Yeah, just Rocky Balboa just got off work. Well, if you what you did miss for the Browns took Dylan Sampson, the running back out of Tennessee, to kind of give them that little the speedy, explosive guy to go with Judkins. I still think Judkins is more explosive than some people give him credit for, but you've got kind of that battering ram workhorse there at the top, and then you got Dylan Sampson. Like, my thing is, do you really want to chase Dylan Sampson around after you've been hit by like Quinshon Judkins 25 times and maybe even Nick Chubb a 5 or 10 times into the fourth quarter? It's like Casey Kinnaman sent me this text that was like talking about now this run game. He was like, in 2023, they couldn't run the ball to close games with Joe Flacco. They couldn't do it. And in times he was then giving some of those turnovers and stuff in 23. Well, now they've got what they need, ammunition. So I love Joe Flacco throwing 35 times a game, way more than I love Joe Flacco throwing at 50. That's just me.
Well, it's what I talked about yesterday, and I know we get so deep into the conversation on positional values and what players you should take at what positions and all that, and it in theory matters in these conversations, but even a linebacker in the second round. I know you hate this, Jack, but if Carson Schlesinger goes out there and turns into like an all-pro linebacker, you're not going to be mad that he was drafted in the second round. You might, but most people are not going to be mad that you took him in the second round. But for me, I'm just, it's all about like this. It's like the story of the draft, right? I want to see a direction in the draft. I want to see that there's like kind of a clear focus from my team in the draft. And I will tell you that I do think the Cleveland Browns are pretty clearly directionally focused here in this draft. And it seems like it's all moving the same direction on the defensive side of things, whether you like it or not. And again, I'm cool with it because they've spent years building from the outside on defense. They've spent years on the edges and years at the corners building in that direction. They showed up the middle of the defense with their first 2 picks. Yeah. And they did that last after they did everything else. And offensively, I think you can really see the scheme change coming for the Cleveland Browns. I think they are laser focused on becoming that physical running, but also explosive football team that Kevin Stefanski is a really good coach for. So I like the fact that there just feels like there is an identity happening here with the Cleveland Browns, and it feels like they're getting back to something. You talked about it there, Jacob, kind of having your offensive line misused and in schemes that don't work for them, and having players on the field that they shouldn't really be, in places they shouldn't really be. I think it's comforting me to see them have a focus on that in this draft.
Yeah, we talked a million times about that change back, but there's no, like you said, there's no clearer indication of that than the personnel they brought in now. And they're all like 20 years old. Well, except for Schlesinger, but like the offensive weapons are all a little bit younger.
But I also, let's go back to the wide receiver conversation we were having before, because somebody put it in the comments that I saw. Again, don't undervalue the Harold Fannin pick, right?
Nope.
Yeah. He can play slot.
Also allows you to play more 12 personnel, which means you're putting most wide receivers on the field anyway.
Yeah, I think you'll see Harold Fannin, like you said, kind of as a big slot in some circumstances. I think you'll see him in the backfield in some circumstances. Like, there's a lot going on for him. Just to get us caught up real quick, or at least the last picks that I have here, I'm showing through the Raiders. So we saw Jalen Royals go to the Chiefs. Q Robinson, the edge out of Alabama, goes to the Denver Broncos. And then one of my sneaky players that I really liked in this draft, Tonka Hemingway, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina. He is making his way to Vegas to play for the Raiders.
One of the best names in this draft. One of the best names in this draft by far. Tonka Hemingway.
Yep.
He's kind of a little bit like Deion Walker, but I think his motor might be a little bit better in that there are times when you look at the field and go, oh God, that guy's like the best player out there for that defense.
And you're like,
he
how
has
does
that
he move
level of
like
an
that?
impact.
Yeah,
Yes.
you're like that's like the thing that really stuck out that really got my attention with him. And I know we're not supposed to put a ton of stock in the combine, but when they were running the hoop drill, you know, where they pick up the towel and set it back down as they run around the figure eights, Tonka Hemingway was moving in a way that he should not have been doing. And I was like, oh, I need to go watch his tape more because like he was playing with a bunch of really good, he was playing next to, you know, TJ Sanders. So it was easy for him to get kind of lost in the sauce. But if you go back and watch him, yeah, I agree with you, Mike. He was a undervalued player here on day 3.
Okay, so back to just real quick programming notes. I know everything that we have done up until this point for the last couple of months has really been hyper focused on this weekend, but we're now just about to wrap up round number 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We're getting ready for the final 3 rounds, 5, 6, and 7. We're going to take you until the last Browns pick. So assuming the Browns don't add a 7th round pick, then we're going to take you until their last pick at 190. What is it? 193, 194, something like that.
196.
6, I
92.
guess.
Yeah, 192. Yes.
192. So we'll take you to that. And then assuming they don't add any 7ths, which I don't think they will.
Well, Tennessee
Tennessee
just sniped a decent one.
Oh, there you go. Oh, well, this one gets a sound.
Who did the Titans just steal, Jacob?
Eli Manor. Wide receiver, Stanford.
Key to success in life.
So now you've seen. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm happy to do pronunciations. Like I've dug so deep into this group that like I know some very obscure names. Like it's my job.
So I think this brings up an interesting question for the Cleveland Browns. Again, I hate to hyper focus on one position because if they came out and took an offensive lineman, that would make sense. If there's a lot of other things they can do that make sense to improve their team.
Carson Vincent.
But again, yes.
That's
but again, knowing what the wide receiver room looks like, I mean, it's just that glaring thing right now where you're like, are they really going to walk out of this draft without a wide receiver? And that didn't seem like a fathomable thing. I know they've gone other ways offensively, but now do we start getting into territory of, well, you saw Royals go, and now you've seen Iomana go. Typically, when you see this at this point in the draft, you'll see 3 or 4 more wide receivers go. If they've got a guy, let's say they love Horton, could we see the Browns maybe making some phone calls to try to get up and get one of these wide receivers that are left before this run goes and they don't have any left at 166?
They brought him in for a top 30 visit. Is it Tez Johnson?
No. You can't be 154 pounds and play in the NFL.
Yes, you can.
But we've just seen Kevin Stefanski try and do this freaky, weird stuff with somebody every year. I wonder if that's potentially the 6th round pick that they're going to try and make. I don't like it, but I can see it.
Oh, yeah. No, without question. And look, I think maybe we would all have our questions. Certainly. I mean, if we were going to discuss what are the negatives on Tez Johnson, the fact that he's lighter than everybody in this room right now would probably be number 1. I mean, with a bullet, obviously.
Just barely, Jeff. Just barely.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, it's also been a bad weekend. We've all probably not really eaten as well as we should have. So, but yeah, I mean, that's certainly something I would be looking at. Maybe but again, just, how do you look at that right now? And especially even after because my thing is like, now you really want to protect your Jerry Jeudy investment, right? Yeah. Like, hey, man, this worked out for us. This was an absolute win. Well, guess what? Next year, there's going to be 75 people on him because, where's the threat on other spots of the field? Just definitely strange.
It is. I'm 100% with you guys on that. Like, most of my mocks and a lot of them I ended up taking a wide receiver in this range in the 5th, 6th round kind of thing. But I figured we'd see one before they doubled down on running back. Like, I just figured they would hit everything before they double dipped. I love the Dylan Sampson pick, but as a predictive situation, I kind of figured they would have done something before that at wide receiver. But we'll see what happens in the 5th here. But like, I think they make some free agency moves this coming week anyway. And I wonder if they're at this point, they're like, let's just do that position there. Cause at this point it's kind of fallen down a little bit, but you're kind of falling off a cliff with some of those guys that just went.
Yeah. And listen, again, Tez is a real interesting prospect in that he's this quick, twitchy, speedy guy in bursts, but he, like, when you look at his 40, it was like a 4.5, right? Like it
doesn't weigh enough.
Funny.
Just doesn't weigh enough to run that fast.
Yeah, probably.
That's right.
You need some muscle.
It's funny because, but he on the field he plays like a burner. Like on the field he runs away, and I think a lot of that is his shiftiness and his ability to like change direction. Like his ability to work out on the field and get himself open is really, really good. I just think, like, if you're going to go that direction with that kind of player, I mean, if Xavier Restrepo is still there, like 50 pounds heavier, slot receiver, a little bit faster in his straight line speed, like you may look at that direction instead.
Catches everything. He catches absolutely. Yeah. Restrepo just catches everything.
Yeah. But interesting. Again, Iomatter goes. Joshua Farmer, the defensive tackle out of Florida State, just went to the New England Patriots. And so we are officially at the last pick of the 4th round of the draft. It belongs to the San Francisco 49ers. And so we'll see what direction the 49ers go here before we jump into the 5th round. Again, the Browns with 1 pick in the 5th, 1 pick in the 6th. And get ready, because a team that hasn't made many picks in this draft is on their way to make some picks. Our old buddy Kwesi is going to be on the board here in just a minute. The Vikings have the 1st pick in the 5th and the 4th pick in the 5th. So we'll see if the Vikings can get some players. That's always a team that makes me nervous, because his draft strategy is going to be fairly similar. He works in a similar way to Barry, so they usually like the same guys. But also, again, if the Browns have a wide receiver they want to get, that might be a guy that they call. Especially with the lack of draft capital the Vikings had this year.
Yeah, and the Browns have already kind of added some extra day 3 capital next year if they need to use it.
Yeah. There we are. I was going to say, before programming note, I just want to give a shout out to everybody and all the shows that we have going on here on the OBR. It's been all draft all the time, full go, and it's hard to believe we're just a couple hours away from being done with the draft. But get yourself over to the OBR.com and make sure you are subscribed over there for all the best written content. These guys are going to be working around the clock writing stories for the OBR.com. And just be a part of the community over there on the boards. Get your conversations in about the Browns. Become an insider so that you can see what's going on behind the scenes. Also, on our streaming network, our shows continue. The schedule continues as it is for the streaming network. So this week, I'm sure it'll be a lot about breaking down what happened in the draft. It'll be a lot of what happens immediately after the draft with the unrestricted free agents. You want to be a part of the OBR to pay attention to what undrafted free agents come in. We'll be on top of that. But again, we're still running shows every day of the week, and we will continue to do that to give you all the best coverage for the Browns. And if you hang out with us in Garage Beers, other teams too. Okay, we have that pick. We do have that pick. So the 4th round is officially over. It is another wide receiver off the board to the San Francisco 49ers, name that I didn't have going there, but Jordan Watkins, the wide receiver out of Ole Miss, is on his way to San Francisco, and that's how the 4th round ends.
If you're curious, that's a wide receiver that's not even in PFF's mock draft simulator,
which is super cool.
So I'll just do a quick run through talent that is in the 3rd round still on the consensus board and available. So we've got running back Damian Martinez. We've got tackle Cameron Williams. We've got interior O-line Marcus Embo. Edge defender Braden Swinson. Linebacker Chris Paul. That is the remaining talent from the third round. There's one first-round consensus player, Shadur Sanders, and everyone else
I was
in
waiting for
rounds
that name.
1, 2, and 3 is now selected.
There you go. There you go. I wouldn't if he falls down there, Braden Swinson at that spot, man. I had him as a top 10 edge rusher in this class. He's a top 150 player for me. The production, there's only the 1 year of production, but a 22.1% pass rush win rate this year. I want a wide receiver, but I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be mad at it.
No, and listen, we're at that point, right? 5th round. We're at that point of this draft. It's been weird. It's been like a gripe of mine with Browns drafts over the last few years when they haven't had the early picks, is that it kind of has forced Browns fans and us to talk about their 3rd round picks as if they're 1st round picks, right? So it's like when they draft Cedric Tillman, it's like, oh, he's not producing. It's like, well, he's a 3rd round pick. It might take him a minute to get right into it. But now this year, now we can get back into the regular cycle of now we're on to picks where, again, you want them to take just the guy that they think is best. But if you could take a 5th round pick and he becomes a player for your team, and they've been pretty decent at that. Andrew Berry has found some guys over his career in these later rounds of the draft that are still making impacts for the Cleveland Browns. If you just get guys here that make an impact, whether it's an edge rusher, whether it's an offensive lineman, whether it's a receiver, you go out and get those guys that you think can make an impact.
Yeah, well, I think the thing here and the key is you're looking at it in positions. We'll think it's what positional group can this guy maybe make the team? Because the one thing I never want to do is I don't ever want to draft somebody and have to cut them, obviously.
Right.
So I mean, you would think right now safety, you would think right now wide receiver, you would think right now possibly edge. Between those 3 positions, for me, ideally, I think that's what would be maybe the remaining 2 selections, because you would have a path for these guys to probably, hopefully, maybe make the 53. I know everyone wants to keep talking offensive line. I don't have a problem with that, but if it's not a tackle, I'm not necessarily sure they're necessarily going to make it. We know who the 4 guards are, I think Jack's
Could
Go ahead,
Zinter
Jack.
move
What's that?
inside? Could Zinter move inside? Because I'm struggling to see the 4 guards making the roster. So I wonder if they're going to potentially shift him in, or they look at.
Well, you're not going to do it if it's anybody. It'd be Zinter, who you would ask to learn to play center. Yeah.
Or is it Jenkins that they look at and go, look, you're just going to be the next man up if we need you. Lucas can play left tackle, and if someone else goes down, then you're in there as emergency cover. So it's one that I just struggle to see 10 O-line, because when I'm doing my 53 man, I'm like, hey, there is a lot of bodies here. And because most teams won't take 5 edges and 5 DTs, so that immediately Jim Schwartz is nicking one of those spots that I would use for other stuff. So really, 50% of teams will only have 2 QBs. We've got 3. So picking up those extra ones does make it a challenge to get to that final number. And it's why I just don't see a route to 4 running backs. And we did see 2 tight ends last year. I don't think we'll ever see that again. They moved off that once the season got going. But
yeah, they just kept calling him up and then adding one, and then just they kept. Sam Howell was just traded to Minnesota.
What?
That's a thing that I just saw in the comments. Let me see what's going on with that. That's interesting.
Is it?
It's interesting. I'm not saying it moves the needle. Yeah, they are trading Sam Howell to the Vikings.
All right. There you go. That is the thing that has happened.
That is.
I mean, I guess it makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know.
Oh, so we got 2 more
exciting news.
I got a couple of picks here. I can read off these picks.
You want me to hit it? Hold on, I'm gonna hit it. We got to make the noise still. I know we're in the doldrums.
Hey, that funky music.
The depth of this position is awesome. But back-to-back defensive tackles. Minnesota takes Tryon Ingram-Dawkins from Georgia, and then one of my favorite day 3 defensive tackles, Cam Jackson from Florida, goes to the Panthers.
There you go. Defensive tackles coming off the board, of which the Browns got the best one. So we could be excited about that. All right, boys. So again, here on the OBR streaming network, just taking you down, barreling into the 5th round here as we await the next Cleveland Browns pick, which again is at 166. So we are officially through pick 140. So we got 25 more picks until we're really talking about who's going to be there and available for the Cleveland Browns as they make their next selection. But again, recapping the draft so far, because I think it's always fun to just kind of sit back and look back. Well, actually, I wanted to get to something first because this question has come through the comments about 27 times. And I think we did address it, but maybe some people weren't here at the time. So I think they're just looking for us to address it again. Again, the Browns have taken Quinshon Judkins in this draft, and the Browns have taken Dylan Sampson in this draft. 2 really, really good running backs are heading to Cleveland. And the question that keeps hitting the comments, so we'll hit it one more time, is I think there's an assumption because he is not under contract with the Browns that this could mean something negative for Nick Chubb. But I think you guys have said a couple of times that it may be the other running back on the team that the Browns are going to look to move away from. So, guys, just hit that one more time just so people hear it again.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong. Adding a second running back reduces the amount of spaces. You're probably looking at 3 running backs on the team. We know 2 of them. The 2 rookies will definitely be there, barring an injury. You've then got Ford. So what happened with Ford is there's something in the NFL called a proven performance escalator, which if you play a certain amount of snaps over your first 3 years, in your 4th year, they increase your salary. And it moved from about 1.4 million to 3.4 million. Nothing guaranteed, but that moves a lot of players from, hey, you should make the roster, to what are we going to do with you? We saw a couple of years ago, Harrison Bryant and Jordan Elliott both took pay cuts of about half to add some guarantees just to keep on the roster because they weren't justifying that larger pay amount. So it's one where Jerome Ford is not going to probably play at the 3.4 million. The fact that they've drafted 2 guys. Could it be, hey, he says, hey, I'll play at 2 million, give me 1.4 million of incentives and we'll make it work? Certainly could be the case. But they could also look at it and go, hey, Nick Chubb, what, you want to come in minimum, or maybe it's a 4-year qualifying contract where they pay him like 2.4 million, but only 1.2 or 1.3 hits ever on the salary cap. Certainly a route they could go. But it's one that it doesn't fundamentally change the chances of making the roster for Nick Chubb. I think it genuinely brings a massive amount of doubt into Ford. People have questioned why I ever listed him in the bubble, but for me, he's been on the bubble all off season because as soon as you get that pay rise, you've got the same for Alex Wright, you've got the same for Martin Emerson. It just creates there's a range of outcomes when they don't make it. I think Martin Emerson will make it. Alex Wright's another one where if he was 1.4 million, he would be a lock all day long for the 5th edge. You have serious questions about him as a 5th edge when you're earning 3.4 million to be a game day inactive, because you don't pay game day inactives.
A little bit of news just coming through. A guy we've talked about a whole bunch. Jeff, I know he was one of your boys.
Stupid Ravens.
Is off the board, and it's always the Ravens, isn't it?
It's always the Ravens.
Always the freaking Ravens. Carson Vincent, the 6'7", 314-pound beast at offensive tackle out of Alabama A&M, is on his way to Baltimore.
Good player. I mean, and I liked, I liked the fact that, it was a guy that could have come in this year and groomed. And, everybody, if we would have had to play, if he had to play, obviously things were going really, really bad anyway. So you kind of would have gotten, a peak, because, one of the things we've talked about, throughout this process is everybody's talking about right now and this year. But, this team, next year could be completely redoing an offensive line. So trying to, see for a guy who could maybe audition for that, certainly something, that I had my eyes on. I see you guys bringing up other names, but Logan Brown, I do like from Kansas. Logan Brown's a little bit older though. I'm not saying the Browns would maybe be interested in that market, but Logan Brown is already 24 years old. So, and he really flashes. Obviously, for anybody who watched Devin Neal, you noticed that Logan Brown was out there and was a really solid tackle for them as well. It was guy just had a lot of interest in, and just unfortunately, another name off the board, but probably does increase the possibility that you're going to look into a wide receiver or a safety here, or possibly even an edge rusher.
So Seattle, I believe, is on the clock, and there's a little bit of smoke going around for Seattle and that first round graded quarterback that still hasn't been picked. So we'll see if that's actually a thing. I haven't seen it come through yet, but
that would be, you have Milroe and Sanders as late picks behind Sam Darnold. If you talk about throwing as many things at a board and seeing what happens, that is not a bad shout.
Again, haven't seen anything on that, but
I'm just wondering if people are, is it real or people are trying to connect the dots? Seattle just did move Sam Howell. So,
right. We'll find out again with them on the clock here. Just waiting to see that come through. Just real quick on the trade. So the Vikings get quarterback Sam Howell and pick 172 in the fifth round, where the Seahawks get pick 142. And you'll see here that the smoke was not real. Riley Mills is on his way to the Seattle Seahawks. So shout out to Ian in the background for that one.
There's a question. I saw a question come up about Cam Williams, the right tackle from Texas, why he is falling. From what I understand, teams think that he is 2 to 3 years away. Like they believe that's how raw he is. That you're going to need to develop him for a couple of years, and I think that's what's led to it. But like he's a really good athlete at right tackle. Like he's got some physical traits. We talk about Carson Vincent and his physical traits, but I think Cam Williams has some nice traits.
Browns are on the clock.
Whoa!
Sorry to cut you off. Browns have traded up. They are on the clock again. Just got that from Daniel from ESPN.
All right.
And yeah, just on Cam Williams, he likes penalty flags as much as Mike Keith likes beer.
I'm just going to say, I'm not sure how this is going to play out, but this could maybe end up being it for Cleveland, no?
Could be.
Because, how are you trading up? I'm saying unless you're giving up some from next year. Yeah.
I'm here for
it.
Well, let's see. We'll find out.
Sneaky good pick right before this. Jordan Phillips, just an absolute baby of a defensive tackle. Young as hell. Went to Miami. Really guy with a lot of potential.
Traded up over the Eagles.
I'm trying to see if I can predictively pick this. I like Jack Nelson, the left tackle from Wisconsin. I think he's a good player.
I'd be real happy if Torrey Horton was the name that came off the board here.
Oh, Torrey Horton is still there. Okay, that's what I was trying to look. I was trying to see who was still available.
So let's see. We don't have any details. Oh my God, guys.
Yep.
It's the pick. Hold on. He's been right the whole time, so I'm just gonna roll with it because Corey has just called it.
I'm here for it.
Oh my God.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Cleveland Browns have traded up and they're taking a quarterback. They got Dylan Gabriel yesterday, and Shedeur Sanders is a Cleveland Brown.
Yes. What? This is analytically sound. Take as many darts and swing at it. There might be one fallout of this as we approach the end of training camp that we might need a moment's silence when that happens for Brad Ward. Kenny Pickett might not be on the final 53-man roster. He is the most likely of the four to be moved. And
absolutely,
he would be traded away. And I come back to when he was added to the team. I said there's a chance that he was traded in for a 4. He could be traded out for a 5. So do keep an eye on that. That won't happen now. That will happen right at the end of the season. But throw as many darts at it and see what happens. You're getting a guy
100%.
that there's a chance this guy is good. Let's find out.
And this, like what I said, and this is the thing, is because the Browns can conceivably, and and for everybody, this is the way teams do it. You give yourself the first 6 weeks. This is what every NFL team does. And every NFL team hopes and thinks they can be in it. They go to 6 weeks. Where are we at? The better teams know who they are. Maybe you got lucky. Maybe you caught a couple injured teams. Oh my God, you're 4-2. Nobody saw it coming. But the Browns could be the team that could conceivably give Shedeur Sanders the second half of the season. The Browns could be that team. And, and where you're sitting now with the 2 first-round picks for next year, this is it. This is the opportunity, here. They would be the team that could say, we're going to hopefully have our decision on him before 2025 is over. So, I mean,
I'm trying to
Breathe, Jacob. Look, you didn't eat any bad spam, did you? You ate no bad spam.
no bad spam on this side of things for me. Here's the thing. Shedeur Sanders was quarterback 2 for me. He was number 23 on my big board, strictly on his tape. I understand everything else. I understand the interview concerns. I understand anything like that. But he was the most accurate passer in this class. Those are the facts for me. Like that for me, tape eval says he's a top 25 player, says he was the best second quarterback. Very limited physical traits in the sense that he's got about an average arm, average athleticism, and he thinks he why are we being told to wake up? We're talking about what they traded up for. Somebody's like, wake up.
It's just a random comment. It's fine.
But anyway, I don't like what his pocket presence is kind of doo-doo at times. He takes some 20-plus yard sacks and they go from first and goal to outside of field goal range. I've seen that happen. That was a thing that happened. But when he is operating in structure, when he is kept clean, like he can shred a defense. But like at 144, hell yeah. I'm just not sure how in the absolute hell this quarterback room is going to play out.
Go on, Jack.
well, it's
I think this compensation. Yeah, 166, 192 for 144. So that is the Browns done
They're
today.
done.
Unless
Outta
they
here.
trade back up, which I don't think is going to happen. It could be player trades, it could be other stuff, but they can start getting on the phones. They can speak to the UDFAs. I know my boy Paul Brown is in the comments. He loves himself some UDFAs. He loves UDFAs more than first-round picks, but they will start work on that. But when is Kenny Pickett going to get traded? Could this be something sooner rather than later? Because his people are probably like, look, if I'm not going to be on the team now, I want to go now. I don't want to sit here and wait till the end of the preseason to get moved. Could it be, someone said Michael Mayer, it could be any of these guys where you've got a 4th round value on a player. You can now ship him. So yeah, we could see movement in that at any point.
Listen, for the pick itself, to get Shedeur Sanders at 144 is a great, just in a vacuum by itself. You can't not be like, yeah, you take this swing. How could you not take this swing? Especially the Cleveland Browns that are just devastatingly bad at finding the right quarterback, right? So you take the swing. For me, all I can think about now, though, is why did we do what we did yesterday? Why did that happen?
That's my problem, yeah.
At that point, at the end of the 3rd round, when there were so many good guys that could contribute right away on the board, why did you take a guy that, unless they really thought he was going to get taken sometime soon today, a guy that a lot of guys had drafted as like the 10th quarterback in the draft? That's all for me. I'm excited. Again, I agree with the fact that when you're this bad at finding a quarterback, you take your swings. And hopefully maybe one of these guys works out, and then you have 2 first-round picks next year that you can use on elite talent that isn't a quarterback. Maybe Shedeur Sanders comes in there and goes, all of a sudden you see him play and you go, holy crap, this is a first-round talent, easy. And you can use your first-rounders next year, but like, I don't know. The 3rd round pick is weird to me.
there is a legitimate discussion that one of these two guys hit. And if that is the case, then we're not worried about doing that next year. And it's one that if it's one bad season we have to go through where Flacco plays till the bye and then whichever the best out of these two produces, they then goes out there and we'll see what happens. That is just upside to the max. So I'm genuinely really, really excited. Brad Ward, how are you going to feel if we trade Kenny Pickett before week 1? That's what we need you back in here to give us a say. You're on mute now, but I want to know, what is the plan? Are you going to eat spam just to celebrate the Kenny Pickett leaving?
Probably not with the state of Kinnaman right now. I wouldn't advise going in on spam. But so we traded up to take Shador Sanders. Now make it make sense for
And
me.
now we're done.
Somebody.
Well,
Yeah,
this
and
means,
make it.
and this means that there was legit conversations last night over Dylan Gabriel versus Shador Sanders. There was a legit conversation that happened last night, and they still went Gabriel, but then somehow it got revisited again today. So obviously the conversation was pretty heated from both sides. And I'm not saying like fighting, arguing, but obviously pretty heated as far as pro Gabriel, pro Shador. Because I mean, if you took him at 94, I mean, if you were going to take him at 144, he's a quarterback. So certainly you would have taken him at 94. The path for him to actually play is probably a little bit different than Gabriel. Or was it just, hey, let's make a trade and get the hell out of here? I mean, jokingly, of course, but it's interesting. But what was I saying last night? He's getting tossed out of the Sanders nest. He's going to have to go fly on his own, and now he's a little bit aggravated. He's agitated. He's pissed off. That enhances the attraction for me. Like the chick everybody tells you to stay away from because she's crazy. But all of a sudden, well, really? Well, how crazy is she? Well, now you got a kid, looking in and with something to prove. And I mean, I'm in. I'm excited for it. And this was the thing that was always the most difficult for me. Deion Sanders was my favorite athlete growing up my entire life. And, to realize that it didn't seem like it was a thing that was really going to work for this team. Now I get it, 142 picks lower than a lot of people tried to pretend it was going to happen. Yeah. Let's go. I'm in.
So they traded the remainder of their picks to get here.
It was
Just one. They had
192,
one.
166 to go to 144.
And they take Shador Sanders after taking Dylan Gabriel at 94. So you're excited, Jeff. I am too. I'm excited that Sanders is there because, listen, I think he's I think he can be a good, serviceable quarterback in the NFL, right? Like, I do think he can do that for you. The question is, what's the plan with him and Gabriel? Why the double dip?
I think it's what I've been trying to say the whole time. I think that they view Dylan Gabriel as, he's going to be the guy holding the iPad. He's going to be the, I think there's Dylan Gabriel is maybe coaching, waiting type of guy. Played at 3 different schools. His understanding of the game. And let's be honest, you look at the guy to do everything he did in college football, Dylan Gabriel, at his size and, sneaky athletic, nice way to say easy, what I'm saying? He's not slow, I guess. But I think they fell in love with the person Dylan Gabriel is. I think they fell in love with the football mind that Dylan Gabriel is. And as I've been trying to say it for a couple of nights, I think they want the same quarterback room for a couple of years. Not, this year, he was a holdover from last year, but there's 3 new guys. Josh Dobbs is there. PJ, they want to build a room. And, if Stefanski thinks he's going to be here for a little while, I want the same quarterback room. We're going to sit in once a week and we're going to do this in the, during OTAs, during training camp. And the next season, we're going to do it all over again. I think they want some consistent flow within that quarterback room.
This feels like, here's my question. So I see in the chat a lot of people saying, listen, Gabriel serves as the backup. He's a great back. they took Gabriel first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they never could have planned for Shedeur Sanders to be at 144. So once again, make it make sense.
They have 2 first-round picks next year. That was my theory. That was my theory before they brought in Shedeur.
Which
The
is
theory
even
was
more of a reason that you wouldn't want to go quarterback here, right?
here, or are you talking about Gabriel?
Gabriel, I guess more.
The Commanders spent a boatload getting RG3 and then took Kirk Cousins. We look at Jalen Hurts was you've just paid Carson Wentz. Why have you wasted? And they were absolutely slammed, the Eagles, for wasting a second-round pick on Hurts by everyone, other than the analytics community that loved it. You do not have an answer at quarterback. So rather than go, hey, we think Dylan might be the answer, we think Shedeur might be the answer, why not? You're giving up very, very little for especially this, but even for both. You're talking the end of the third round.
Yeah.
We look at the guys that have gone around then, it doesn't genuinely move the needle. If we're talking about 67 for Dylan Gabriel, I've got a different vibe to it, but that's a guy that should thrive under Stefanski. And it's one that throw it all at the wall and see what happens. I think we'll get to the point where Pickett's gone. That might be sooner, it could be later, but either way, I would much rather have Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, guys that could be the answer. And I'm not talking about could be the answer as the best quarterback in the league, but there's a shot that one of those two guys is a top 16 quarterback. And that's enough to get you to the playoffs on a rookie contract. So I'm genuinely really, really excited by this.
Yeah, I mean,
listen, Brett.
Brett,
I'm just going to chime in because a lot of what's going on here is that it's just weird. It's just the way
it's weird,
man. Is weird. It's just weird.
I'm not
a good explanation.
To the chat again, I'm not complaining because I think you guys make a good point. The value of Sanders at 144 is overwhelming, right?
Yes.
So you may have gotten to a point in your room where you just like, we just can't pass him up again. The value at this point is just the fall has made him ultra valuable at this point. You can't pass him up again. But it does, at least for me, make 94 seem stupider.
It's just
again, it's weird. It
weird.
feels like there's a reason. You're never going to get the problem with this situation. Honestly, the problem with this situation is you're never going to get the real answer as to what on earth has happened, because you're never really going to know what the conversation was in Berea when they sat down at pick 94 and chose Dylan Gabriel. We're never going to really know why they didn't take Shedeur Sanders there and why they took Gabriel ahead of Sanders, even though Sanders, by all accounts, outside of the fact that Dylan Gabriel is 25 and he is the all-time FBS leader and a whole bunch of stuff because he played for 6 years. There's no reason why you would have done that if you wanted to take Shedeur Sanders. I think it feels to me much like a situation where they decided to go with Gabriel for whatever reason, never thinking that Shedeur Sanders is going to be on the board here. Never thinking that, because who would have thought that?
Right.
And now Sanders is on the board and they just looked at it and went, well, shit. We got to go get this guy.
I guess if you like, it's confusing.
Yes.
I'll reserve. I'm not complaining. I'm just trying to talk through this, right? Like how this.
I'm trying to understand it, Brad. Like that's where I'm
I
at.
just
I'm
want to
with you,
understand it. Yeah, because I mean, if you took 94 on Gabriel, then that's your guy. You took him over Sanders. You liked him better. I watched the press conference last night, but now you're going to trade, the rest of your draft to get up and take another quarterback. And that's fine. They don't have a quarterback, but they also have 2 first-round picks next year, which seemed like that was the path to getting the quarterback of the future. Maybe it's not. If it's not, that's great. Those are 2 luxury picks. So, and maybe Shedeur works out, and that's fantastic. I think Shedeur has a much better chance of working out than Dylan Gabriel does.
Yes.
So I'll say that much. So I'm fine with that. If it's best player available, to the chat's point, I guess that makes sense. But once again, at quarterback, there's kind of a caveat there, right? You just can't go BPA. Oh, the best player available is quarterback for the next 4 picks and just take them all.
Right.
So, you know, listen,
Okay,
they don't have an
guys,
answer.
I think
They're
in a
throwing
vacuum,
it.
though, and I think a lot of people are going to agree here. In a vacuum, just talking about this specific selection, because the weirdness of this is the Taylor Gabriel thing that happened at 94. So take that away for a minute.
Yeah,
I know we're not taking it away, but just this pick at 144, Cleveland Browns come up. They use their last pick to come up, and they get their quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. I'm thrilled with this specific pick. I mean, who could have ever imagined? We spent time arguing about Shedeur Sanders at 2 for a while, and then we started spending time arguing about him at 33 if he's still there. If you got 33, do you trade up with a team at 20 or 22 or 24 to get Shedeur Sanders? None of that happened, and you still wind up with Shedeur Sanders at pick 144. Just from the perspective of the fact that you have to try to figure out how to get the quarterback right, you have to be kind of take away the other thing that happened. You have to be pretty excited about walking away with Shedeur Sanders at pick 144.
But that's just in the vacuum. That is as good as you could have got in that situation. I just don't. I don't know.
Hey,
I don't know. You've got some free agency moves to make now. You need some wide receivers. Maybe some offensive line, some tackle help there, the depth preferably kind of thing. I don't hate Gabriel and Sanders as my backup to Joe Flacco, but like, what's Dion going to say?
Well,
what's going to be the first thing that's said? Like, and when's it going to come? It's probably going to come today. They're going to praise it at first. They'll praise it because the Browns finally took him and they got aggressive, and they'll be like, hey, the Browns took him. He's off the board. That's great. But it's like, they took a quarterback over you. Almost 2 rounds. What was it, 50 picks? They took a quarterback 50 picks higher than you. That was consensus 50 picks lower than you, so to speak. You know what I mean? And I just, and then everybody's talking about, is this Jimmy Haslam? Because there was some stone.
What do you mean don't do that? That's a legitimate question, I think.
That's what I'm worried about.
Let's find out. Let's hear a thing about it. Every time something happens that's weird, it's like Jimmy Haslam did it. I just think that is such a weird way to go.
Well,
before you even hear like a news thing about like, well, Jimmy Haslam did this. It's
when you have unexplainable stuff like this that doesn't make a ton of sense, and it's a high-profile player like this, you have to ask the question: did Jimmy step in?
If you watch the video, I can send it in the group chat. There's a video of both Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski when this is announced, kind of stone-faced and half-assed clapping. And that's why I'm bringing the question up, is because they just kind of look like they're just like this. They're like, that's just me.
There is obviously the connection there with Bill Musgrave, the QB coach, really good friends with Deion Sanders.
Yes,
so that is one that Deion's probably going to feel a lot more comfortable with his mate coaching him, which it's all useful stuff. It's going to probably lead to less drama.
Real quick, because he is here, and I don't want to just ignore him because he's been here for a minute. We haven't heard his voice at all. Sam Penix is here. Sam, a wild development here at what has now become the end of the Cleveland Browns draft.
Yeah, very unexpected. Sanders for me was QB4. Just from an on-field standpoint, there are concerns for me as far as him becoming an NFL starter. But I do see a path to that, especially if he's able to, 1, improve his pocket presence, 2, if there's anything mechanical that he can do to get a little bit more zip on the ball. If he can do those things, I think he can have success, especially in this scheme. My concern the whole time was he thinks he's someone who he's not, right? He thinks he has Cam Ward's talent. He thinks he has Cam Ward's complete package ability, and he doesn't. And he plays like he thinks he does, and he acts like he thinks he does off the field. And the hope, I think, for the Browns is this dramatic slide from being considered, at 1 or 2 in the draft by a lot of people, all the way down to the 5th, is going to completely humble him. And he has to have a completely different mindset moving forward if he's going to have NFL success, because he's not coming in as the guy. He's not even coming in as, oh, we got him at 33, we got him at 67. Like you guys were saying, he's coming in as the second quarterback drafted in this class. So he's not being handed anything, and that's going to be a completely different situation for him. He's not going to be used to that, and he has to completely change as a person. He has to, reportedly, he completely bombed a lot of these interviews with these other teams, and that's why he slid so far down the board. Because even though I wasn't super high on him as a prospect, he's way better than the 144th player in this class. And I think that's the risk that you're taking at this point. So from a purely football standpoint, I think it's smart to take multiple shots at quarterback. I think there's merit to taking Dillon Gabriel. I wouldn't have taken him at 94, but I can see the path to, okay, this guy can fit in your offense and run what Kevin Stefanski likes to do, because there's traits there, there's ability, there's proven abilities mentally that is going to be a complete paradigm shift over what this team has had for a few years now. If you can get something similar out of Sanders, who I think has one elite trait, which is his accuracy. And if you can maximize that trait, there's a path to him having success. There's concerns there, but it's a shot in the dark here. Value wise, I don't think you can really argue with it at this point. Like, basically, because that 166 was the pick that they traded up with the Texans from. So I think they sent what was it, 192, 200, and 257, and that's basically what you gave up for Sanders, along with 192, 200, 216, 257. So you basically gave up 4 very late sixth and like one of the last picks in the draft for Sanders.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Go for it, I guess.
Yeah. So, Jeff, is this just throwing, assets at the position and hoping that one works out? And then you can use those first on elite guys, to add around them next year.
All right. Well, I just took, as you guys saw, everybody saw, I took a phone call. I'm not going to divulge who that was. And I did ask, and they're like, we can't understand, why Gabriel before Sanders. But kind of one of the responses I got was, well, Dillon Gabriel does everything right. Everything right. Carries out every fake. He's and this is why they love him. This is why that guy that's small got to play 6 years in college football. He's going to do everything he's asked to do, the playbook, the plays. He's going to run out every fake. He's going to do it on Tuesday, just like he's going to do on Saturday in the game. So there could be part of, and the term they used was kind of breaking. And this is the thing. Look, Shador, it's a different thing. I keep referencing Arch Manning. But Arch Manning isn't playing for his dad. He's not playing for his uncle. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm sure there's some influence. Who are we kidding? They're the Mannings. But you know what I'm saying? Shador's gone everywhere, and it's been his dad. You know what I'm saying? So part of the thing with Shador, and in this phone call, part of the issue they think with Shador is you have no, again, I told you the other day, you have no idea who he is outside of playing for Deion Sanders, being Deion Sanders. You've never seen him, and obviously the offense, they tried to do everything they could to make Shador look good, but you're going to do that regardless. You're going to make your quarterback look good. So there's this real thought process of what is Shador outside of that element, and it's a complete unknown, and nobody's going to know. Obviously, there's no way to know. So, I think Gabriel is here because it's going to be that he, you can't get outworked by the guy. He's going to do everything right. So you really can't get outworked by the guy who's got less talent. So it's that thought process to it. You have two guys right now, two rookies. You have 2 first-round picks a year from now. There's a lot of eggs in the basket, but you're trying to get this Deshaun Watson thing, but actually do it right and get the quarterback. The guy will represent your city. It's really interesting the way this has all kind of gone down. And again, a guy with a lot of talent like Shador has, how pissed off. It's you wonder, you do. And Joe, this is you got to wonder where Joe Flacco's at right now, because Joe, who basically agreed to came here, and then all of a sudden now it's like, well, and I think they were probably truthful with Joe about the situation, and maybe they didn't really have all the answers just yet. But if you're Joe, doesn't he's not he can't really be a mentor because he's not going to be here long enough to be a mentor. Certainly an interesting situation for him, but I think at the end of the day, the Browns just said, look, we think he has the ability. The only way we're going to know what our fears are, all the negatives on Shador are, the only way we're going to know is to bring him in. And bringing him in at 144, where it's not costing you much at all, if he hasn't, doesn't have the ability to get out on his own 2 feet, or you're getting, I guess we'll call it parental interference, it's not costing you much to move on. And, but, it's just kind of crazy the way it all worked out here, definitely.
Yeah, it's hard for me to argue with swinging at the quarterback position, because ultimately it has to be addressed and it has to be solved. So I can't really argue with that. And him at 144 is tremendous value.
Jacob, let's get Will Shepard in here from Colorado too while we're at it now, right?
Yeah. But they do need a wide receiver, and they do need tackle help still. They have a number of things that they still need on this roster, which they can still address in tertiary free agency or whatever, so that's fine. But you can't tell me this was planned, right?
No, well, I mean, I don't think anybody in their wildest imagination thought he would be there. Is the thing. So they took Dylan Gabriel. If I had to guess, they took Dylan Gabriel assuming Shador was coming off before they were back on the clock at 126. That's what I would think. They were like, we're going to take Gabriel because he's the one that we like. And then we'll go from there. And then it was just, okay, he's falling. And it gets to 126 and they're like, we really like Dylan Sampson. Let's take him. Let's continue to revamp this running game. And then he keeps falling and he keeps falling. And it's just like, I get taking a flyer on him at 144. It's just like, I'm baffled and kind of speechless. But he was the 23rd player on my board. So I'm not hating Shador at all. I'm kind of hating the process.
That's what it is.
I'm just confused. Could this all work out? Now, I just had a great thought. What if they flip Kenny Pickett for a wide receiver? That would be funny. That would be hilarious. That would make Brad Ward very happy.
It would. I just can't imagine anybody giving up a wide receiver for Kenny Pickett.
There's going to be a pick involved.
There's going to be some loose change in there, but there you go. Hey, Kenny Pickett to back up Drake May in New England. Loose change. And let me look at that wide receiver depth chart.
Here's that future 6th round pick that we got 7 years ago. That was for 7 years in the future. Let's just give you that one.
Do you want the Houston Texans 2027 5th?
That's what I was just like. What do you want me?
Right.
You want to give me Jalen Polk? I just got to get Kenny the heck out of here. I don't.
I hope Kenny hasn't signed a lease.
I'm telling you though, I don't hate that quarterback room in terms of taking swings. If it's Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, Shador Sanders, there's 2 lottery tickets right there. So I don't hate that. I kind of would have preferred to have a wide receiver to just be Shador Sanders and Kenny Pickett behind Joe Flacco.
Shador Sanders at 94, 126, yes. Troy Horton,
yes.
Sure.
Yep. That's exactly what
Well,
I would have preferred to do that, and then get you a tackle with that 6th-round pick that they didn't take, whatever.
Don't
that
worry,
they
guys.
traded to go up.
I'm sure MKC is going to ask this question correctly.
She is
It'll
not.
be 12 questions on Shador, and it won't be why did we take Dylan Gabriel at 94 if we still thought, there was. The thing is, and this is probably to Brad's point, is there was always some sort of interest with Shador. Obviously,
Yeah.
there was some sort of interest because otherwise you would have never done it, just like almost every other team did not do it.
Yeah.
So, that is the question within itself. You guys are on the clock, pick 94. You ended up taking Dylan Gabriel, but you felt comfortable the next day, 50 picks higher, with taking Shador Sanders. Explain the rationale.
Hold on. There's this comment. This comment's hilarious.
I love that. I just saw that. Very funny. Very funny.
That's you got me on that one. You got me.
The questions are going to go crazy about the process of this, but I will tell you one thing, because I don't think you can like that process. I don't think you can like. I don't know. Maybe they're going to come out and tell you they had Dylan Gabriel rated higher. I can't imagine that's the case. But
that's what they'll say.
They have to say it.
One thing that I will give a little bit of something I like out of this is if Shador is there and they're like, damn, we should really get Shador because he fell for whatever reason, but we should go get him because he is ranked so highly on our board now that we're not going to get anywhere near any kind of value of anything else but going to get him. I do like the fact that they weren't stubborn. I do like the fact that they didn't sit back and go, well, we can't do that now because we took Dylan Gabriel earlier. Sure. Like, I like the fact that they didn't just say, well, we already made that move, so now we don't think we're going to go do something that we think could be good for the team. They weren't prideful about it. They went and made the move, and now they're going to have to answer a billion questions about how they got to where they got.
I just got a text from my dad. He said, well, at least now I got a new use for my Tim Couch jersey.
Hey.
A second new use.
It's just weird. It's just weird. That's, I think, where we're all at, is that we just don't completely understand the process here. Like, you look at the first 4 picks, I think really good football players. Love the Dylan Sampson pick. I like taking a quarterback. I'm a Dylan Gabriel guy. But it's just weird. Are they a better football team? And do they have the potential to have found their franchise quarterback? They have the potential. I think one of those guys could potentially be, especially Shador has the talent to be a top 20 quarterback, a top 16 quarterback. Like, that's there. That does exist. Most accurate passer in this class by far. Not ready, in my opinion. Some stuff with the footwork and the pocket presence is just not great. But like, could he run a Kevin's? I said this. What I say about Dylan Gabriel? Like, oh, it runs a Kevin's. Can Shador Sanders operate a Kevin Stefanski offense and be on time? I've seen it. He can throw with great anticipation at times. Like, he does a good job with that. And if you're scheming guys open, he can put it there to make it work. I can see him being successful. It's just weird taking Dylan Gabriel first and then doubling down in the 5th round, man. Like, it's just, and I know, like, I'll sleep on it, and me and Sam will record a pod probably tomorrow that'll drop on Monday and talk about it, but weird. Just weird.
I'll be really interested to see what their plan is with him, or maybe they're still even figuring that out, right? I think, I know, who was it? I was watching, I think Pete tweeted this out the other day.
Oh, they're going live. Andrew Barry and Kevin are live right now.
Okay. The throwing motion for Sanders, he's been quarterback all his life, right? Coach's son, player's son, getting coached up all through junior high, high school, college. So it's very mechanical, it's very refined, it's very second nature. It's repeatable, it's the same thing every time, but it's purely vertical, purely over the top. And that really hampers his ability to throw the ball with drive. I'm not concerned about his deep ball arm strength. He can get it downfield. I'm concerned about his ability to drive the ball into windows, because oftentimes on film, he would try to make that throw into that tight window. He has no trouble attempting the throw mindset wise. So he's not scared, which is good, but he just doesn't get enough on that pass, and it takes too long to get there. And then that window closes and the defender knocks it away, or the defender jumps in front of it. And that's going to happen more in the NFL if he isn't able to increase that drive. So I'm wondering if they're going to try to kind of rebuild his throwing motion in hopes that they can maybe lower his release point and maybe add some variation too, because what makes Cam Ward so special is not only his arm strength, but his ability to move where he throws the ball from. He can throw from multiple different arm slots, which not only helps him to throw the ball between throwing windows, but he can also get it around defenders. He can angle his arm to where he can make any throw on the field. Sanders does not have that ability. So I wonder if they're going to try to take things slow and say, hey, you're not ready to play right away. Even though he was considered one of the more pro-ready prospects in this class, I think it would be beneficial for him to kind of be sat down third, fourth on the depth chart and just try to rebuild those mechanics in hope of unlocking just a little bit more zip. Because if you can even get him to like Dylan Gabriel level arm strength, I think he can be successful, but we're going to have to see if they do that.
I guess I would push back, Sam. I understand your evaluation on that. I guess I feel like he can make all the throws. I don't know. I people have talked about his arm strength. I don't think it's as bad. Maybe it is. From what I've watched, I feel like he can make all the throws, and it's not like
He can. I think it's average.
Yeah, it's like average. It's not. I don't think it's a detriment to his
I
game.
personally feel like it is. I understand, Jacob and Brad, you both feel like it. And I think most people probably do feel like that, where it's good enough. I personally think it's below average for an NFL starter. I think it's probably the weakest among all the 32 starters. And I have concerns based on his college tape of that becoming more of an issue in the pros. So for me personally, I think that's an issue, but I recognize and I understand that you guys and many other analysts don't feel that way. They think it's more average.
I mean, there's plenty of deep balls that get underthrown, but and some things like that. Like there are issues there, but I really like what you said about changing his mechanics and adding more velocity if he could fix that up, because I never even really considered it that way. That's a really good point. Yeah, I don't know. Tremendous value, weird process. That's what this draft is. In this pick, like I don't. And now I'm just curious who's going to catch the passes. That's really where I want to go. Like, I love the running back room right now, and especially if they put Nick Chubb in it. I love that. That'd be cool. Tight end room's pretty good. They got a nice. If JOK is healthy, like if JOK can play with Carson Schlesinger, my God, that would be pretty awesome.
I wanted to hear if you guys did. You guys watch the presser yesterday?
I did.
Did you hear Barry get caught talking about JOK in the past tense?
Yeah.
Someone said something to me about it, but I hadn't listened to it.
Yeah, it just bothered. It may have been just a slip up, but like I was like, whoa. He was like, JOK, was this, he was that, and he was comparing him to Schlesinger, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, and is, you know what I mean? I was like, oh crap. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if I can get some quotes. I know Ian is listening right now to the presser, but I'm trying to get some quotes from Stefanski.
I have that video if you want it, from the war room here.
Okay, yeah. I sent it to Ian.
That you mentioned. So here we go.
Shador and Theon. Theon's not going to interfere. He's not going to be calling the coach. He's not going to be commenting about Shador while he's in Colorado. Lou, I think there's a lot of just fake news out there surrounding the Sanders family.
The expressions didn't change at all.
Yeah, it's interesting. They don't look tremendously enthused, to say the
GTO
least. Not
Sullivan,
that that
that's
means
what I was
anything.
thinking of.
I do have another. Hold on a second. I do have another video.
Kevin Stefanski spoke on the video. He said, "Don't read too much into that reaction video, making the rounds for TV." Says it wasn't timed up to the exact reaction. It got to the point where he was probably misplaced relative to the draft. So they're even aware that saying maybe not.
It's AI. They weren't in the room.
It's AI. Did somebody? I did
Brad,
want to show you.
Can
I
you
did
take
quickly-
the meme that I've just posted in
Yeah,
Slack? I think everyone deserves to see that because
I didn't
that
see
is
it
just you.
yet.
I want to
This
real quick.
is
I just
me.
wanted to show this video just real quick. This is just Shadur afterwards. I didn't put it on the screen, did I?
No.
No, you didn't.
I played that whole
I was
video.
like,
I'm like, yeah,
we're
that's...
watching him watch a video himself. I'm like, nah, this is...
You were watching me watch a
It's
video.
the reaction cam only.
Yeah.
See a lot of relief in that face.
A lot
Wow.
of relief.
And the thing is, when you
You
fall
love to
that
see
far,
that.
You do love to see that. Yes, absolutely. That's my favorite part
He's
of the
probably-
draft is when people get to have that moment. That's my favorite part.
he's probably ecstatic as someone like the Browns because when you fall that far, that could have been the Chiefs that could just take him as a 4-year backup. That there is no chance he's going to play for 4 years unless it's a week 18 game or Mahomes gets injured. And that is a tough place to be where you just know you've got zero chance. I think he would much rather be in somewhere like Cleveland that he's got a chance. This is what I produced for Brad.
Did you make this?
I made this just now because when he was chatting about I don't like Dylan Gabriel at 94, I was like, there is nothing more exact than what did it cost? Everything. But you wanted to
Brad
get rid of
just
Kenny
has to
Pickett,
be
and
taking one
it
for the
cost
team.
you Dylan Gabriel at 94. You just
I
Can I
love
ask
it.
you-
Jeff, you guys. Oh, there he goes. He's gone. All right, never mind. Go ahead.
Brad, I was just going to ask you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I already asked you that question. Never. I was going to say if they then trade Kenny Pickett in a future pick to get just something they need because they feel good about Dylan Gabriel being like quarterback 2 with Sanders at 3 or vice versa, I think you would be able to make a little bit more piece of it, wouldn't you?
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah, I mean, if you flip Kenny Pickett and turn him into something now, that's great. I mean, but the biggest value in Kenny Pickett is his low contract, right? And that he maybe could be your backup quarterback, which is kind of what the Browns. I mean, the Browns gave up a 5th with DTR to get him, so it's not. I don't know. What do you think about that, Jack? What is Kenny Pickett worth?
DTR wasn't worth anything, so I think Kenny Pickett's just worth a 5th. And if you go around the other teams in the league, he's better than a significant amount of teams' backup quarterback situation. If you look at the Raiders, Michael Mayer has been discussed of do they want to move on from him? If they do, is that something that works there? It's one that I can see teams calling the Browns now and going, hey, what are you selling Kenny Pickett for? And potentially a deal gets done sooner rather than later. Because if you're Kenny Pickett's agent, once this draft's done and you've signed your players that need to get done, you're probably calling teams and going, let's get him out there as quick as possible. Because unless Kenny Pickett thinks, hey, you can win that job, but that could be the only part that they allow those two guys to fight it, and then whoever loses goes. So it might happen slightly further down the line, but I struggle to see a route where it wouldn't be mad to carry 4 quarterbacks, but I still don't see them doing it. If you can get some value for Kenny Pickett, just move him.
And I love that, like, if you're going to have two backups that are young developmental guys, like I love them being rookies, like guys that are moldable, so to speak. Like I don't know, I like having 2 developmental guys that are there, but like one of them, and Gabriel, has a ton of experience, and I think if Joe goes down, he'd be able to step in, that kind of thing. I like the construction of the room overall. It's just weird. I'm sorry. I know I keep saying that, but
the thing that's weird, the things that make it weird for me, is what, Larry, what you oh, I forgot you like Kenny Pickett. I'm sorry.
no.
It's not that, okay. The thing that makes it weird is, okay, the trade down first, because the trade down is for the first next year, which you feel like that you ask that question. And I've always said all through this process, you always have to ask, when you get an offer like that, how does this impact me getting my franchise quarterback? That's the question that needs to be answered first and foremost. So when you get that haul in the first round pick next year with a team that I think could go, be one of the poorer teams in the league. We'll see. They have a chance to be bad, right? Jacksonville, I think that's a massive win, and you're a step closer to getting that franchise quarterback. So that's fine. Let's take best player available. Let's go through this draft. And then, I disagreed with some picks, but they're probably first day starters, even with Carson, so I can live with it and all that stuff. I love taking the 2 running backs because no matter who the quarterback is, if you put a good run game around them, it's going to help them. And you have to put help around this quarterback room regardless, right? So that's all good and fine. But the Gabriel pick and then the Sanders pick just totally throw me for a loop, and I'm not against it. I'm just talking through it right now. Like, because you have the 2 first next year. So are you trying to figure it out this year? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just very contradictory to what you would have thought they would have done. Like, hey, we're in a situation to get our franchise quarterback next year. Let's add around it and drop him in. Or, what's the strategy here? Or now we're taking 2 quarterbacks, a guy that, the worser of which in front of the other, for whatever reason. And, you go from there. So I don't know. I
wanted to just real quick, a couple
puzzling.
Of notes.
It's just puzzling.
It is. Just a couple of notes from Ian about the press conference that he sent us that I wanted to read. Barry said there was a run of players they were targeting at the start of the day. It seems like part of it was just they didn't like the rest of the board. And then not saying they didn't say much, but saying they had positive interactions with him. Interview process was fine for them in regards to Shedeur Sanders.
They said that all along.
That's true.
Said they were one of the teams all along that while other teams were saying negative things about Shedeur and saying that he came across as entitled and things like that, the Browns said he came across as energetic and positive, and you know what I mean? The words that can be interpreted differently, you know what I mean? Like, it's all saying the same thing, but it's just your interpretation of which. And the Browns have been positive about him the whole time. Barry talked about the touch points they've had with them have all been positive. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, though, imagine Jacksonville is picking in the top 10 and like Shedeur Sanders shows that he is your quarterback. And then that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Like if somehow you did get Sanders and the future first and all this stuff, and then Sanders looks good this year if he has to play and whatnot. And then you're like, I got a top 10 pick and I don't have to pick a quarterback. Like, I think that would be pretty cool. I'm not saying that I'm predicting that to happen, but if that happened, that's best case scenario. And that's a good scenario to be in.
Imagine telling someone 48 hours ago the Browns would end up with Mason Graham, Shedeur Sanders, and an extra first next year.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. That's a good point.
If me and you had said that on our show on Monday, if you had told me that on Monday on our show, I would have called you crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you call me
Yeah.
crazy anyway, so it's not like
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
par for the course.
Wanted to read a couple things from the chat, pushing back against some. I don't know if I said that, but they're just kind of Brad. They had no idea Sanders would be there. Market dynamic shift, not puzzling. Smart ability to capitalize on an opportunity. Old man Drizzt saying they're hedging their bets. If this works, they can improve with those 2 picks next year. If it doesn't, they can move up and get you. But the question is this: do they learn enough about these guys in one season to know? Right?
So-
like that's always been the problem. Go ahead.
I would say it's easier with 2 guys, because if you've got 2 guys that you're like, we think they both could be in that discussion, and say you end up with a 5th pick, and the top 2 quarterbacks have gone, and there's another guy that you're less keen on, you might trade down and someone else takes that. But then you set yourself up again by getting that next first the year beyond for 2027. So you go, look, we think Shadur's it and Dylan Gabriel might just be the 20th best quarterback. We don't want to take the 5th, the sort of 3rd, 4th best quarterback at 5th in the draft. Trade down. Don't take a wide receiver or whatever. Trade down a little bit. Add another future first, because you just keep setting yourself up with 2 firsts in every draft until you're like, we've definitely got the guy. Because if you just wait an extra year and you've got 2 rookies that you're like, they're great. Whereas if you just had Dylan Gabriel or you just had Shadur Sanders, you're forcing yourself, you've got to pick a quarterback. Whereas if you've got 2 swings at it, you just massively increase your odds that you've got the answer. And at the same time, if you go and take another quarterback, you can have a position room next year, which is 2 guys that have done 1 year, a guy that is a rookie taken in the first round. There's still nothing stopping that. And then you go, hey, we've got 3 guys. Let's try work it out. We've got Deshaun Watson as a 4th guy on the roster. Hopefully he twists an ankle and spends 2026 on IR as well. But hey, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can get behind this. I'm just trying to, we're just talking it through. I don't want people to think I'm being super negative on this.
Flexibility again post Watson, right? Because now you have that 1st round pick next year. That kind of, I think that was the intent before, they switched regimes back in, 2016, 2017. And then, so you have that extra first now. You have that capital moving forward that you can continue to roll over if you need it and if you can. And now you have a swing at a potential franchise quarterback with a very low investment. So that doesn't preclude you from doing anything quarterback related next year. And now you kind of have that flexibility. So you can argue with the players and the process. I think positional value, where they took certain guys, I think you can criticize that. But in overall results from this class, I think you see kind of what they did as very future oriented and kind of like trying to get this train back on the tracks. And I think they're accomplishing that, and they're in the process of doing that. So I think from that aspect, it's all encouraging.
Yeah, no, I think if you're like, when you go into the draft, you want your team to get better. They certainly got better. And I think that, plus with extra assets and all those things. Yeah, I think I love the first 4 picks. Like I do. I know positional value and some questions about the linebacker too early, things like that. I really like the first 4 picks. I'm a Dylan Gabriel fan. I like the Dylan Gabriel pick a little bit more now that I know he's not the only rookie. I actually kind of like it a little bit more. It's weird, but I like it more because I'm like, well, if you're looking for the upside and the potential and the development, I've got 2 cracks at it. And one of them isn't just a small, physically limited guy. One of them is the most accurate passer in this class, and he's being paired with Kevin Stefanski. Like that's pretty cool. Like I like that idea. Like I didn't want to take Shadur at 2, but it didn't mean he was off my board. Him at 144 is just insane. And Harold Fannin is on this team. I keep forgetting I haven't got to talk about Harold Fannin enough. I love Harold Fannin. Like that is awesome. Sam knows my affinity for Harold Fannin. We've had many a conversation. I will say this, by the way, just a funny note. On Monday on our show, I asked Sam if the Travis Hunter thing that AB was doing, if that was blowing smoke up people's asses so he could pull off a trade back. And we were like, no, yeah, it was right. I was right. That was right. That really was.
If we go back to the series that we ran of QB2 or not to QB, Brad smiling because you remember what I said in mine. I was like, yes, we're chatting about taking 2 QBs. And then I was like, oh, you don't want me to chat about that? Oh, that's a shame. And then I took a different angle with it. But it's one that analytically love it. And just to put into numbers these 2 contracts. So if we take 4 years of Deshaun Watson, 184 million. If we take 4 years of Dylan Gabriel plus Shedeur Sanders, 10.9 for both combined. This is an incredibly cheap room. And what that means is you can spend so much more money adding talent around it. And look, it might not work out and then they can go and spend those picks next year and I'm cool with it. But I'm at the point where you give Joe Flacco a shot, but you might see, we've saw crazy stuff that you go back a few years when Russell Wilson was drafted in the 3rd round, went lower because he was smaller, but Matt Flynn spent a load of money on him as the starter. Russell Wilson produced in preseason, produced in the offseason, and the team was like, we've got to go with the kid. That craziest stuff has happened that they go with the kid. So preseason is going to be fun. We're not watching just like, hey, is Kyle McCord any good? He's the late pick that we took at QB. We're talking about 2 young guys. And part of it, why they might want to race quickly to get Kenny Pickett out of the way, having him there takes practice snaps. If they get him out the way, Joe Flacco doesn't need practice snaps. He knows what he's doing. They can get a couch there that he can just sit on, enjoy, watch the guys, give some vibes to them. And then those 2 guys can just go out and prove that they should be the backup. And then beyond that, let's see what they do in preseason. It's
a legitimate quarterback competition that has the potential to give them a good quarterback. Like it does. Like they that in most of the time when we talk quarterback competition, there's not a lot of legitimate optimism for the outcome. And I think in this situation, they put themselves in a place to have that.
Have they chose Hard Knocks yet? Because we should be 100% guaranteed to have a choice.
Please no.
You'd be mad not to choose it.
Out of that, though, I would watch the shit out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you think they trade Pickett? Do you? I mean, they've been with 4 quarterbacks before, right? Into camp.
It's a when they trade Pickett rather than an if they trade Pickett.
Okay.
I think it's one where do you do it now to free up the snaps? Do you do it at the end of the preseason? The only route that he would have to beat Flacco out, and I struggle to see it. But yeah, I think you're looking at Kenny Pickett getting moved at some point. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's for a player rather than the pick, and they just send him off.
To answer the Todd Father's question, no, they do not have any more picks. So I wanted to answer that.
So I know I'm always the negative one. I'm not trying to be negative this offseason. The only pushback I would have at this point is I still think when I look at this board, especially now, knowing that they got Shedeur, right? You really could have used either Jared Wilson, Xavier Watts, Charles Grant, Upton Stout, Ty Felton, all went right after Dylan Gabriel.
You can't see it. There was a tweet from about an hour ago where someone said, "It's time to draft Shedeur," and Daryl Ryder said, "Never happening."
Yeah,
and Freezing Hot Takes picked that up.
Did they? I did not see that.
We can't be on Hard Knocks, so we can't be on Hard Knocks because we've done it in the last 8 years. So
yeah, we just did it during the in-season version. NPC saying at that point, Ayo Maynor was on the clock as well.
No,
so I think with they have done something different with Dylan
Gabriel?
I feel so much better having 2 quarterbacks there that they're more likely to find an answer that doesn't involve trading 2 first-round picks for a quarterback next draft. Whereas if they only had one, I think you're more or less locked in. So the fact they're swinging 2, even if it just defers the decision for a year because you think one of these guys is it, that the upside is massive. Face it, the Browns are not going to compete to win in 2025. That might be famous last words because one of these guys smashes it, but I think they're not in the AFC. If they're in the NFC, maybe. But find out these 2 guys. That is all this year's about. Find out if either of these 2 guys are legit. Because if either of them are, wow, you can put an
Now you're
insane
set
amount
up.
of talent.
Yeah.
I'm going to sit there talking about free agency, going, "Hey, we've got the Brinks trucks. I'll have one of them, one of them, one of them, one of them." It's going to be crazy because as well, you're getting nearer to the end of the Deshaun Watson money. I know the final year will be 2028, but we know what those numbers are coming. We've planned it. He's outgoing. We're in a nice spot.
And Jack, you said the numbers. Like you said the numbers. You're like, hey, they're of both of them, not even coming close. Their money combined, not even coming close. That's how you're supposed to navigate. That's how you're going to navigate it, man. That is how you're going to navigate it, is through cheap picks. I'm with you, Jack. That's really well said. Really well said.
3 6th and a 7th, and 4 Sanders and a 5th. That's what it came out to. So
yeah.
Hey, that's the Sam Penix move. Trade all of the late round picks for
they did it.
Player with
they
upside.
did it.
They did the Sam
Wow.
Penix.
They did. They did what I want them to do. They did what Jack wanted them to do. I think they're watching the OBR.
They're watching.
They are.
And it's crazy. If we sat there before pick 33 came in and we're talking about, hey, they're going to take 2 QBs, including Shedeur Sanders. They're going to take all this stuff. I'm like, oh, cool. That's going to be a nice draft. If you ask me after day 2, I think I made my feelings pretty clear on what I thought of the draft. So it's one that you've got to look at it in a whole. And I still think there's plenty more moves to come. I'm looking at what are they going to do at tight end. What are they tight end? They're probably done there, but there's probably still add a veteran. What do they do at wide receiver? What do they do? Is it something at edge? They're definitely going to add a safety. They're going to be really aggressive. They're one of the most aggressive teams in UDFA market. They guarantee money. So you'll see lots of stuff thrown around where they've guaranteed like $250,000 to someone. That just says they're guaranteed a practice squad spot. It's not they're getting that money. They're just saying, hey, you're going to be on our practice squad or you're going to be on someone else's. We're willing to guarantee this. So you'll see that start flying out over the next few hours, really.
Is Justin Simmons still out there?
Yeah.
Yep. Simmons out there. Blackman's the one I really like because
I like Blackman too.
I don't know which 2 years it was, but in the last 2 years, he's played one at strong and one at free. That kind of flexibility really, really excites me because you've got Delpit that can do both. And if you have those 2 guys where the quarterback can't instantly look and go, well, that's the strong, that's the free, it's going to remain that way. If they're interchangeable, Sam Darnold's going to be seeing ghosts.
So their wide receiver room currently: Cedric Tillman, Jerry Jeudy, Jamari Thrash, Michael Woods, David Bell, DeAndre Carter, Caden Davis. That it could be argued that's maybe one of the worst in the league. So you have to do something there, and that
I feel like that almost guarantees Elijah Moore at minimum.
I would be fine with that, but I think Elijah Moore and another move, incoming. Usually we see a wide receiver trade by now. Maybe they think David Bell it can come or turn around because he started off hot last year before his injury, and we know Stefanski seems to like him. Not a real explosive guy, but yeah, I mean, I think they need to get creative. As they have done a good job to everybody in the chat's point of throwing 2 bodies at the most important position in the game this offseason, and inexpensive ones at that, to Jack's point. They also need to throw some bodies at this wide receiver room. So, Manimal, I agree. Tillman was emerging.
Yep.
and I would like to see him continue, but it's no sure thing at this point because unfortunately you can't bank on him being good because of his concussion. So
I think you need more anyways. So
yeah, absolutely.
that and a younger tackle with developmental potential.
Yeah,
So
that's where I really think they'll throw money at a UDFA tackle. One
there's
of those,
a lot of
one of
guys
those-
still on the board.
yeah, one of those guys that you're like a small school guy or something like that, but or just like kind of a guy that's just raw. I think tackle and wide receiver will get some UDFA dollars. I think they'll put some dollars into those two positions. Wow, what does that mean? I don't know, but and they need to add more than just UDFAs at that position. But I do think
Yeah.
that will be part of their target. Is my point.
In the past, they've done a good job, and I'm stealing Pete's point here, so I want to give him credit on this. With the UDFA market, they do a good job of to Jack's point, they'll pay some extra money to prioritize some guys, but they've also in the past, like with Diabate and at the safety position with D'Anthony Bell, they've made it look like, hey, there's a path to playing here, right?
Yes,
And that will
absolutely.
bring in the better guys. So for a wide receiver, at least to this point, until they make a move, for a UDFA wide receiver, there's a path to playing, or there's a path to contributing and making this roster. So that is also good process in the UDFA market, or when you are shorthanded there. So, we'll see what happens, but they do have to address that certainly. And probably from a number of different angles.
I'm still here for the go tight end crazy. Get me Dallas Goddard.
3-0 Cavs after a 36-point victory.
Nice. Cavs
37, sorry.
37. So with the draft, the Browns draft ending early, and we're coming up on 3:30 here. Let's go ahead and wrap this thing, right? Let's go around the horn here. They have no picks left. Do we think they're trading back in at this point? Probably no, right? They're wrapping things up and getting out of there. Barry likes to get a jump on the UDFA market, no? So
Yep.
That'll be a good thing for him to do. Man, wild draft, ladies and gentlemen. Wild draft for the Browns. In the end, I'm leaving more optimistic than I thought I would be. I really loved the double down on the running backs. Like, regardless of what you have at quarterback, I think putting a good running game around the quarterback is essential. Because we know it's not going to be a world beater, right? So we know it's going to be somebody that needs to manage the game at times. So adding, Judkins and Sampson, I think, is critical to doing that. Adding Jenkins in free agency, adding Cornelius in free agency. They have addressed the offensive line to a certain degree. So those are my thoughts on it. Give it some time to I'm going to watch the presser and let this sink in. And I'll write on it. But listen, there are some things to feel good about as we leave this draft here. And to your point earlier, Sam, if you would have said we would have left with these three guys, right, we would have been like, well, shit, that I'll live with that. So that's where I'm at. Let's hear from you guys. Sam, where are you at as we leave this thing? Draft Cave 2025.
I think it's different than pretty much anyone could have expected, but I also think they just got better. And I think they got better at some important spots. And I think most importantly, they are now much better set up for the future. They're going to take a swing at a quarterback again. They're going to take a big swing because I don't think they're going to be satisfied with just a game manager or just good enough, someone who can execute the offense. but that's not going to come this offseason because this was not the year to do it. And so they didn't. They did take a swing for pretty much nothing with Sanders. So I think from a strategy standpoint, that is wise to do. See how it works. But ultimately, they got better. They added that crucial first-round pick for the future. I think they're building the team with high-character, hard worker guys from the ground up, and they're doing it while they're prepping themselves to take another swing for that quarterback in the future. Maybe it's next offseason, maybe it's 2027. But when they do that, I think they want to have a solid foundation for that quarterback to come in, step in immediately into a team that can make the playoffs. And I think they're on their way to doing that. So in trying to achieve those goals, I think this was a success, even if some of the decisions were questionable and interesting, put it that way.
Oh, sorry. I was reading the other comment after that. That's why I was laughing. He said, Brad, congrats on not having to eat Spam and getting rid of Lil Hands all in 24-hour period.
Yeah, poor Casey.
Brad Ward is the official winner of the draft.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Let's get a round of applause for Brad Ward here, baby. Rest in Spam case.
I'll drive him to the airport.
I think that's the problem. He is resting in Spam right now.
Yeah. I'll just real quick as we wrap this thing up, man. Like, I love Mason Graham. He was the 3rd graded player on my board. Dylan Sampson was the 50th player on my board, and they got him in over. What was that? 126 was the pick they ended up actually making him. I love Harold Fannin. I love Quinshon Judkins. He was my 3rd ranked running back. Like, there were some players I really loved. And I was a little confused and found it weird about the quarterback position, but as Jack talked about it and Brad talked about it, we talked ourselves through it. I'm in a pretty good spot with it, man. And I give it a B+. I know we don't like grades this early, but it's a B+ grade. There's some things they could have tweaked, and I would have liked a wide receiver maybe earlier than a linebacker or something like that. But like, I really like what the haul that they came out with, and I'm very excited to see where it goes.
Jack Duffin, the double down Duffin. They double dipped on they double Duffin dipped on running back and quarterback. What an amazing day.
First team to ever do that in the first 5 rounds per ESPN. I'm genuinely really happy. It's one that I think anyone that watched yesterday, especially the end of it, I think I made myself pretty clear on my views of the draft. They were not kind. That second round was brutal. That day 2 was brutal to me. But I'm sat here with looked more into Dylan Gabriel and feel much better about that. The Sanders pick not saves the draft, but it does save the draft. I'm now sit here going, we've got 2 legitimate chances to find a competent quarterback. I'm not talking about they're the long-term answer, but they're a potential answer that can give you top 16, top 20 quarterback play across a whole rookie contract. That's what I'm after. If you told me one of these 2 QBs is going to be Kirk Cousins for 4 years, I'm ecstatic that is what I'm chasing with these guys. If you're chasing the top 6, top 8 quarterback, that's got to come with a first round pick. The chances of getting that here is very, very low. But if you can just get okay, amazing, because then you're in the playoffs every year. And yes, you're going to need some luck to run the table against Burrow, Lamar, Allen, Mahomes, but let's just get to the playoffs each year and deal with it. And if we're then taking those 2 first round picks next year and we're using them on offensive skill players, or it's a tackle and a wide receiver is what they both get used on because they've found the answer to quarterback, even if it means we trade down a bit with one just to add a bit more resource for next year, that should be the mindset. We should get the team into a mindset of every single year we're taking 3 players in the first 2 rounds, no matter what that is required. You just keep adding, and eventually you will get just such a loaded roster, because not only do you load the roster with Jimmy Haslam's money, you're then adding a phenomenal extensions free agency class to it. So I think this is this is the start of being the Eagles, doing things like the Eagles. It's going to take some time to get there. It does not happen overnight because Deshaun Watson, with the trade compensation, everything set you back so far. But I think we start seeing more Eagles-like actions for the Browns, and the Shadur Sanders pick late on reeks volumes of it. Why did we trade up again before them? Because they were probably going to take Shadur Sanders in that next pick. So it's one that really, really impressed with where the Browns are. And preseason is going to be genuinely fun. We're going to be watching it for, is it Gabriel? Is it Shadur? Is it both? That is going to be the question that we'll spend all season asking ourselves. But onwards and upwards, go Browns. Really, really happy.
Yeah. Well said, guys. Great job. We killed this draft. Short day 3, perfect ending on that one. Wrapping up early here, but listen, appreciate everybody tuning in. We've done massive numbers this year. You guys have been amazing, commenting, interacting. Want to thank, of course, Core Home Fitness for sponsoring Draft Cave 2025, and Scott Fillinger at 11 Creative for outfitting us. And they can, corehomefitness.com. Go visit all their deals and hit up 11creative.com for any of your marketing merchandise needs with Philly. But thank them both for sponsoring the Draft Cave. This has been an epic couple days, and we appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Huge numbers but we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna get out of here early. You gotta like that. For Jack Duffin, Sam Penix, Jacob Roach, and everybody else that spent endless hours on these screen the past 3 days, this has been the 2025 Draft Cave. We are out.